Hello, everyone. We're going to do a little, we're not quite started yet. We're going to do a little hangout Q&A time before we get started. Just want to welcome everyone.
Let's hang out, Ryan. Let's just hang out.
Yeah.
Let's just hang out together.
That's the best.
What do you guys think?
It's awesome. If you guys can hear us and see us, let us know in the chat. Give us a thumbs up.
Yeah, let us know that you can hear us. And then we will start to answer your questions. We see a bunch of questions that have already been coming in, both the YouTube and the Discord chat, which is why we do these. All right, I see at least one thumbs up.
There we go. Hello, everyone.
Awesome. Hello, hello, hello. Excellent. All right, so I don't know. What do you think, Ryan? I've already seen a set of questions that I feel like we could answer. One that I've seen a bunch.
Definitely.
I've seen it here asked, and I've seen it more than once. Do you need any knowledge to build this? Please let me know. So, you know, the way, and this actually ties into another question that I saw from somebody just a little bit earlier. We actually have a couple parts to what we're going to do today. So the part today, we're actually going to give you essentially the built Netflix clone, right? It's going to be a Netflix clone and it's already built. We're going to focus on some of the GraphQL aspects, the API, and how you actually use things like GraphQL and JavaScript to talk to the backend database and do things, and then focus on some of the Jamstack portion of publishing and pushing the Netflix clone to production and being able to do this globally with, you know, all free and everything like that, right from JavaScript, right? So we're going to focus on that piece. Now, if you follow that, you don't actually need to have any prior knowledge to do this. If you follow the steps that we have in the repository, you can actually go through everything, right? So this is going to be a lot from an awareness standpoint. Now, the question I saw earlier was, are we going to build this from scratch? No. However, there's a different part to this. We will give you these resources, by the way, when we go through the session. But in the repository, at the very, very bottom, there is a link to one of our friends, Anya Kabau, who is a YouTube influencer. I guess she's real heavy into in the coding world, creates all sorts of wonderful, like, getting started, like how do you build this kind of videos. And we partnered with her on this. And so she actually, if you want to build the thing from the scratch, from the ground up, then we suggest you take a look at the Anya video. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to take that, you know, once you've done that part. I mean, we're going to already provide the completed app, but once you've done that, then we're going to use that to kind of hook everything up and push it into production. So if you do want that, if you want that experience, we really suggest you take a look at the Anya Kabau video that we've provided in the materials. But to go back to the initial question, if I'm coming at this new, will I be able to follow it? I think so. Again, if you follow the instructions and go through the stuff in the repo, you should be able to do all the things that we talk about. Let's see. Yes, this is recorded. So once the session is complete today, then the link you're using right now to watch will be available indefinitely. So you can go back and watch at your leisure at any time. I've seen a ton of, can we get a certificate? So for the workshop itself, we don't offer a certificate just for coming today. However, we have badges. We're going to talk about the badges, and we actually, as part of the series that we're doing this last month, actually, you could even get a golden badge. To get a badge, though, you need to do the homework. So we do have homework for you. Again, we'll explain all that in the repo. All right, Ryan, what are you seeing? I just answered.
We get this question a lot, and I've seen it a couple times already. Are there any prerequisites? Now, we walk through everything that you need to set up during the workshop. However, if you want to get started on some of those things, that is great. We can post the link to the repo that we're going to be using, and all of the instructions are in there. Right. Some of the prerequisites, like, they're not really prerequisites, but some of the things that we'll be doing is setting up different accounts for different free services, such as AstraDB, Netlify, GitHub, if you don't have a GitHub. So those are some of the accounts that will be needed to complete everything. They are free. The main one that I'd say would probably be the most useful is AstraDB, if you want to get that account spun up. There are instructions in the repo for what the database name and key space will need to be, because it'll prompt you when you sign up for Astra. It'll prompt you to create a database right away. So that would be the only thing that I would say. Again, we're going to go through all of that during the workshop. We'll walk through anyone who does not already have a Astra account on how to do that. But if you want to kind of get a jump start on it, that would be my suggestion.
That's right. And I see a couple questions. Are we going to use any backend applications? This is actually something totally cool, Manav, about something that we're doing today with what I mentioned earlier briefly, just Jamstack and Netlify. So traditionally, when we're talking backend, right, especially if you have like a JavaScript, your client is in some kind of JavaScript, usually HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and that kind of deal. You use that to, to form what the user is going to interact with. And then traditionally you'll have some type of backend, whether it's in Java or C# or something that you talk to that handles the interaction with the database and all that. Jamstack changes that a little bit. And we're going to talk today about serverless functions. So we are going to use serverless functions today. The cool thing about it is, for those of you who are familiar with serverless functions, you might be familiar with something like AWS Lambda or whatever and say, okay, well, then there's my backend. But with Jamstack, you can actually implement your serverless functions in JavaScript or TypeScript right there, technically in your front-end code. And when you deploy it, they'll be deployed as serverless functions, which then act as your backend. So we're going to actually have the whole end-to-end piece in this today, all in JavaScript.
Yeah, and that's a question to Preet. Which language will we be using? JavaScript. Yep, pretty much.
Yeah,
completely.
JavaScript.
What kind of database are we going to be using for this clone? We'll be using a NoSQL database. We're using AstroDB, which is built on Apache Cassandra, which is a very powerful distributed database. We'll be using the GraphQL API as well in using AstroDB. So we'll be going over a lot of how to use GraphQL and how to manipulate data, entering data, creating tables, all that kind of stuff. We'll be going over that.
That's right. And Harsh, can we follow along? If you wish, absolutely. Right. And I'm glad you asked that question. So we do build our workshops to be self-service. So if you want to just watch, right, we kind of usually have the recommendation that if you're absolutely brand new to stuff, maybe you've never coded or worked with any of this kind of thing before, it might be good to watch and then go back. And this is all what we're going to do. The repo, the work we're going to go through is actually part of the homework anyway. So if you're going to do the homework, you're going to go through it. But if you want to follow along. We do try to pace the content in such a way that everybody can kind of keep with us, right? So feel free to do that. Manav, can you use VS Code? Funny enough, Gitpod, the cloud-based IDE that we're going to use, in fact, uses VS Code. If you want to use your own VS Code locally, you can. One caveat I want to put with that. We do, in the repo, put the... hey, Saham, please don't spam your questions. We will try to get to all of them, okay? So just ask once. We'll totally try to get to it. But if you want to use your own local IDE, you can. But you will have a couple of prerequisites. Essentially, having things like npm and Node installed. We do recommend, though, that if you're kind of new to this, use the Gitpod IDE that we're going to give you. It's all in the cloud. So if you follow the instructions that we have in the repo, then you should be able to. You just need a browser, right? If you're going to do it on your own locally, you do have a couple of requirements for your, to have the right version of Node and npm installed. We do have that in the FAQ, the FAQ section of the repo, and we'll talk to those.
Yeah. And,
hi there, Black Deuterium. Deuterium, Black Deuterium. Hello, I can say hi. Hello. Did I say that? I wanted to say deuterium, but it's not. I don't think it's deuterium. It's deuterium.
I think there's an E missing.
Yeah, exactly.
Vimal asks, are we using React? So the app itself is built using React. We won't be doing much front-end stuff in this workshop. We do have, in the repo, there is a link to some React basics. If you're interested in learning more about React, we have a separate kind of repo for going over the very basics of React. So check that out in the repo. Why Gitpod over Firebase? Those are different things. Gitpod is our cloud-based IDE. Firebase is a database. We're using AstroDB for our database. How to create a security token. We will walk you through how to create a security token. If you're trying to work ahead, the instructions are in the repo, but you're going to create a token through the organization settings in AstroDB. So,
and I think one more, and then we'll get started. I see from Harsh Vardhan, do we need any membership or pay something for the deployment part? No. You will need an account at Netlify. and you will need an account in Astra and such, but all of them are free. Everything we're going to do here today are all in the free tiers of all the services we're going to use. So the most you do is you'll sign up for one of the, like for the various services, but yeah, there's nothing that's going to charge you a cent.
Yep. And we're using React.js, not React Native. This is a web app today. So, all right.
Yeah.
It is about that time. So I'm going to play a real quick video to get us in, and then we'll start the workshop. So we'll see you in just a bit.
I found someone new now. I have more room, no more formats to chain me. On the same page, we are effortless, schemaless, living in the future, you and me, made for us, serverless, living in the future of the clouds.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I think I lost David. Hold on.
Oh, what'd you do to me, Ryan?
Well, there we are. All right.
I see how it goes.
Yep.
I see what's going on.
I tried to
Ryan
get
cut
rid of
me
him
out, man.
in the video. Tried to leave him in the dust. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 3 of our app dev learning series, our summer series. We are finishing up this series with our final app. We're going to be doing a Netflix clone, building your own Netflix clone. That is this week. We have previously done, for those of you who are joining us in the last week, we have previously done a very basic getting started with React, building a to-do app. And then last week we did a TikTok clone where we went over using the document API and the document-oriented data structure. This week we'll be doing Netflix, and we'll be using GraphQL API. We'll be going over in detail on how to use GraphQL to create tables, insert data, all that kind of stuff. I am Ryan Welford. I am a developer advocate here at DataStax, and I'm joined by David Gilardi. Hello, David.
Hello, hello, hello.
But we are not the only ones who are with you today. We have a whole team of people that are in the chat. They're ready to answer your questions. So say hello to them as they pop in and out. But yes, we are supported by a really awesome team here at DataStax. So just want to do a really quick recap. I guess I kind of did this already previously in the series. We built our first app with JavaScript and Node.js, creating a to-do app, very basic to-do app, but got up and running with our Create React app starting point. And then last week we built a TikTok clone, and we focused on document DB or document API, and getting that up and running. It was a lot of fun. And for those of you who are coming back for week 3, going for that golden badge, welcome back. So we'll do a little bit of housekeeping here. This is kind of our agenda for today. I'll start with some housekeeping. We'll do some AstraDB reminders for those of you who are returning, and for those of you who are new, we'll be going over how to set up our database account. And then we'll be working with GraphQL, creating tables, creating our schema, adding data, and all that kind of stuff. Then we're going to take our Netflix app, and we're going to deploy it to Netlify, which is our global CDN hosting service that we're going to be using. It also allows us to use serverless functions. It's really cool. And then at the very end, we're going to do the swag quiz, which is a quiz, kind of a game that is your opportunity to win some prizes. And then we'll go over some resources. And we will also be doing a Q&A session after the whole workshop, after the 2 hours. So if you have any more questions, we'll stick around and we'll answer some of those live for you. So YouTube and Twitch is where we are streaming. We monitor the chat on YouTube for questions. We don't really monitor the chat on Twitch. So if you're watching on Twitch, why don't you come over to YouTube, ask some questions, or you can join our Discord. And our Discord is now 14,000 users strong, members strong. It is a great place to ask continuing questions and get involved with the community that we have based around Cassandra. And it's a really cool place. So if you want to join that, that's kind of where you can ask questions outside of the YouTube streaming workshops, because those will go away after the workshop is done. So that's a really good place. So for games, I mentioned that we're going to do a game at the end. We're also going to do a few questions. Yeah, it's always exciting. We're going to do a few questions here at the beginning.
While, throw Ryan off by just shouting things out really into the mic.
At least this one was relevant to what I was talking about. No, we're going to be using menti.com for our games. It's kind of a quiz website. It's really easy to use. You just go to the menti.com, you enter a code, and you'll start playing the game. So that's what we'll be using. We'll be doing that here shortly, just for some intro questions. Some of the things that we'll be using, there is nothing to install. I've seen a lot of questions of like, what are the prerequisites? What is the software that we have to install? Nothing is required to install. We're going to do everything in the cloud. We have our GitHub repo, which I'll link in the chat. This is the repo that we'll be working out of. All of the instructions, all of the things that we're going to be doing today are in that repo. So if you fall behind trying to, if your connection like craps out and you are not like watching the latest and greatest of the stream, follow the repo. It will get you through the whole thing. So if you have any questions, check the repo first and make sure that it's not answered right there, and then obviously you can ask in the chat as well. But yeah, GitHub is where our repo is stored. Gitpod is our cloud-based IDE that integrates with GitHub. It allows you to load up that whole repo in a cloud-based instance and edit the code right there. It's really, really useful. It's based on VS Code, so if you're familiar with VS Code, you'll feel right at home. If you want to work locally with your own IDE, you are welcome to do so. We have designed this workshop around using something like Gitpod, so our ability to troubleshoot may be limited if you are working locally, but we will certainly do our best to help. AstraDB is the database that we will be using. It is built on Apache Cassandra, which is a NoSQL distributed database. It's very powerful. We'll be using the GraphQL API that is provided by AstraDB to use GraphQL in manipulating our data. And finally, we'll be using Netlify to deploy and host our Netflix clone. This is a really good, really cool global CDN that allows us to host our site and use serverless functions so that we do not have to maintain any backend infrastructure, which is awesome. All right. We are in our last week of our series. For those of you who are new, how does this series work? We have these 3 weeks that we've done that I've kind of gone over already. If you attend one of the 2 interactive live stream workshops each week, which is Wednesday or Thursday, we do the same workshop Wednesdays and Thursdays. And if you do your homework during the week, which we will talk about later, we provide homework every week to kind of further your learning. You get your badges. So if you do your homework, you get a badge. So we have the To-Do app badge that we've given out already, the TikTok badge that we've given out, and then this week will be the Netflix badge. And if you're new, don't fret. We are still giving out those badges if you're doing the homework. If you want to go back and do them real quick. You can get your swag if you complete everything. If you do all 3 weeks and do the homework, you can get some swag. And you can also get the golden badge for doing all 3 sessions. And then there's also a surprise for if you complete all those things. And we'll talk about that in just a bit. But first, let's go to menti.com. And we'll do a very short quiz, some questions just to get to know you and see where you're at. It's mostly to see if you are a returning viewer from the previous weeks.
While we're doing Menti real quick, just a couple things. Preet asks, is this pre-recorded? Hey, Preet. No, it's live. It's not pre-recorded at all.
Does that answer your question?
And I actually saw a bunch of questions coming through about, do you need a Netflix subscription to do this? No. We are just building a Netflix clone that is not going to be linked in any kind of like Netflix account or anything like that. So no, you don't need a subscription to that.
Yeah. All right, so go to menti.com, enter the code that you see on the screen. I've also posted it in the chat. And we'll get this very short quiz. It won't take very long at all. But if you want to press the thumbs up when you get in, we can see how many people are in here.
Have all the little thumbs kind of floating away from my head up here.
Yep.
I actually should say from up here. Let's see if I got that right. Yeah, there we go. Hard to do when you're inside of a window. Right.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right.
I see a bunch of
Awesome.
thumbs up
Yes.
coming through.
Lots of people entering in. I'll give it just a few minutes. I want to make sure we get a good amount of people, and then we'll get started. It's just going to be a couple of questions. Rahul, I don't see a quiz over here. Go to menti.com and enter the code that you see at the top. I'll also bring up that other screen that has it a little bit bigger. And you can use your phone. You can open a new tab. Lokesh, I'm new to React. Can I continue? Absolutely, yes. We won't be going over React specific things in this workshop. If you want to learn more, you can watch the recorded version of our week 1 series, or week 1 session, and we go over a little bit more about React basics. In Portuguese, menti means lied. Wow.
That's good to know.
Hey, we didn't name it. All right. Awesome. I think we have a good amount of people in. Feel free to enter, to jump in whenever you want. These are not for the prizes, so don't worry about that. So
yeah, just a couple quick questions here.
Yeah. Were you here last week for the TikTok app workshop? We just want to know how many of you are returning and how many of you are new. Looks like most people are new.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, look at all those new folks. Well, hello.
Yes,
and,
welcome.
And for those who are joining us from last week, awesome to see you again. You should recognize some of the things we're doing, but we're going to do a little bit differently as well.
Yeah. Yeah, especially the deployed Netlify stuff. We did it'll be very, very similar to last week. Actually, it'll be pretty much the same as far as deployment goes. All right. Thank you. Did you do, for those of you who are returning, did you do the week 1 or week 2 homework?
Oh, yeah. This is the real question right here.
Yeah.
This is where I get my shame bell out. Do I need to get shame bell?
Yeah.
Shame bell.
Okay, so to be fair, a lot
So
of people are
many
probably
folks
answering
do.
no
Yeah.
because they weren't even here. That's
Yeah.
fine. Okay.
Exactly. But for the 37 people have said, 39 people have said yes, right? Woohoo.
Yeah. I think that's
Just see
probably
that you're doing the homework.
the majority of people that were here last week or previous weeks have probably did the homework, it looks like. So
I can tell you from the amount of homeworks we've graded, we know that a lot of people have done those homeworks. Matter of fact, did we cross the 1,000 badge mark?
we did,
this
yeah.
week?
We did.
That's right. We had 1,001. That's right. So we crossed the 1,000th badge mark. And by the way, I've seen the question a bunch, right? And people asking, do you get a certificate for this workshop or whatever? We don't give a certificate for coming to the workshop, but we do have the badges that Ryan will show you here in a second. And those badges are if you complete the homework, right? And that's a way to show us that you've come, you've actually done the material and everything, so you get credit for that. But I don't want to say any more because Ryan's going to say more about all of that.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Thank you very much for answering those questions. We just wanted to kind of get an idea of how many people are new and make sure that we don't assume too much. But we're glad to see some repeats. What am I trying to say? Return viewers. Yes, whatever. My brain is blinking out. That's fine.
However you want to say it, Ryan. It's up to you.
All right. Thank you for answering those questions. I'm gonna stop this music. All right. So we have a little surprise, right? I mentioned there was a surprise. If you attend all of the sessions and do all the homework. Now, for those of you who have not attended the live versions of the previous weeks, you can still go back and watch them and do the homework and still be eligible for this special prize, right? We're giving away 3 $500 Amazon gift cards. And what you have to do is go through exactly what I said before. You watch the sessions, you do the homework, you get the badges, you get the golden badge, and then you fill out this form. And let's see, David's head is in the way, so let me turn off David's head.
Oh, sorry about
That's
that.
fine.
I know my big head.
So we'll get this link in the chat as well. I don't have that typed out, so maybe one of our moderators can get that in there for me. The dtsx.io/summer series game is where you can fill out the form and show that you have completed all of the steps, and you can get several entries into the raffle or whatever we're calling it. But yes, we are giving away 3 $500 Amazon gift cards, kind of as a prize for attending and doing all the homework, and it would be awesome. So entries are to be submitted by August 1st, which is coming up pretty quick. But if you have not watched or done the homework of the previous sessions, you still have time. So make sure that you, if you're interested in getting some of these prizes, that you do that before August 1st. And I think we'll be announcing it on August 18th, I think is the plan. And
Yes.
we'll be announcing the winners live on August 18th. All right. So with that, I'm gonna make sure there's Kedar, $500. That's half of my gaming PC budget. I don't know, graphics cards are pretty
So that's
expensive.
incentive to get one, right? That's incentive to do it.
All right. With that, I'm going to hand it over to David, and we'll get into our content. So, we have a mission for you.
Do it. Yeah, let's do our mission. What's our mission? What's the mission, Ryan?
Your mission is to deploy a Netflix clone to production over a global CDN using a NoSQL database with paging and infinite scrolling. And you have about an hour and 45 minutes now because we spent 17 minutes blabbing. So
All right,
good luck. Yep.
We'll come back in about an hour and 45, and
Yep.
we'll see how you do.
See where you are at, and that's your homework. So we'll grade it, and we'll see how it goes. No, obviously not. We're not going to leave you hanging like that. For those of you who have been in our previous sessions, we do that joke a lot.
You probably used to your eyes. Yeah, that's true. It's okay.
No, we'll walk you through it. It'll be pretty cool. It'll be fun. And yeah. All right. It's all you, David. Or do you want me to go through these?
All right. So
You're
no,
good.
that's fine.
Okay.
I can see it on the screen there. All right. So now building it up, and I've seen some of you are just like chomping at the bit. Like let's get into the thing. Let's actually start building stuff. So let's pay attention for a moment here. So from the app, we've kind of talked about this in some of the questions. This is a React app, right? Built on Node.js using JavaScript, this Netflix clone. And just to kind of like build up kind of the basic web app structure, right? As you see there on the slide at the very bottom where the user interface is, where the client is going to interact with it, right? The part that you go to in the website that then displays the videos and does all that, right? That's where React is going to be. Now, something I actually want to point out, and I'm going to show this to you when we come off the slides and go to my screen, we're going to get into the repo. If you're not familiar with React, if you've not done anything with you're not familiar with React components and how to work with them, you'll be fine today. But if you want to know more about how to do that, and if you want to get some experience there, we actually have some resources that I'll show you right off in the beginning. It's another repo that will bring you through a whole starter app, and you can actually build a React app from scratch. So for those who are not familiar, I really suggest taking a look at that. But so React is going to power our user interface, and then you see the GraphQL piece. So it's part of with DataStax's Astra, right? Yes, it's built on Apache Cassandra, but Astra has a whole set of APIs: REST, GraphQL, document API, so on and so forth. Today we're going to focus on GraphQL, right? So GraphQL is a language. It's native to JavaScript for one, so it's really nice for front-end full-stack developers because you can just code right in JavaScript and you don't have to worry about bringing in any other drivers or anything like that. And GraphQL actually allows you to connect to multiple data sources right there in that one language, which is really powerful, especially if you have a case. Maybe you have operational data going to one place, maybe you have analytics data going to another or something like that, or maybe you just have multiple disparate data sources that you want to bring in data together. You can do that with GraphQL. Now, are we doing that part of it today? No, we're going to use GraphQL with a single database. But there's a lot of power that's under there. So you've got the user interface, the part that the users are going to interact with. Then you have the API that's responsible for how you're going to talk to the database. We're doing that with GraphQL today. And then underneath the hood, you actually have your database, right? And that's where AstraDB comes into play. Okay, we can move on from that. All right, so the first thing we're going to do then is we're going to get your Astra DB accounts going, right? So let's go ahead and drop the link. Let me go ahead and get that for everybody. This is going to be, unless Ryan beats me to it.
I got it.
Oh, he's got it. Spam, spam, spam. There we go. Oh, I didn't mean the Astra link directly. I meant to the repo. Sorry.
I can do that.
Oh, can I beat you this time? Aha. There we go. There we go. Okay. See the link that is coming, that is being spammed by DataStax developers right now. That is the repo. And if you could switch over to my screen, Ryan.
Yes.
And then that way we can get everybody on the same page there. All right, hopefully everybody is seeing the repo. So this is where you want to be, right? You want to be here in the repo. Now, this is for those of you who are going to follow along. That question did come up a bunch before. Yeah, you can follow along. We will try to paste things so you can, but you can also just watch. Like I said before, these workshops are built to be self-service, so you can come and do them on your own. That's kind of how the homework works anyway. Totally up to you. So first couple things. Thank you. Oh, thank you for spamming the links, everybody. Okay. So first couple things I want to point out. We've seen a bunch of questions for folks asking, hey, can I do this in my local VS Code? Ryan did talk about that. We recommend that you go ahead and do this in the Gitpod ID we'll provide, because we're handling all the prerequisites for you. I just want to point out, though, that if you are going to do it locally, that we do have some prereqs here. Notice Node 15 and NPM 7 or later. If you don't have those, if you click on that link, that'll bring you to some resources to get to them. Everything is free, like we said. There's nothing here that you're going to be charged for and all that deal. One thing I do really want to point out, a couple things actually. One, the homework. So for those of you who are curious, hey, how do I get the homework? Where's the instructions for the homework for the badge? Right here. You go to the homework section, you follow the steps, and everything you need is there. When you're done, you submit the homework with this link. It'll submit it issued directly to the GitHub repository for us. As we go through, after the table of contents, we're going to go through this part and get Astra going. This is what I wanted to point out. For those of you brand new to React, if you want a refresher, go to the React starter. Not right now. This is for later, right? This will have you build up a React app from scratch using NPX. One of our previous workshops, the To-Do app, that was actually week 1 of this, builds on that, right? So if you really want to get into like React UI components and all that kind of deal, do that.
Hey, David, could we zoom in a bit on the repo one? Yeah.
There we go. How about that? Is that better?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
All right. Awesome.
Let us know if it's big enough for you guys.
Yeah, let us know. If it's not big enough, I'll zoom in more. Just let me know. Okay, so first thing we want to do is go to step 1, this login or register to AstraDB and create database. Notice this big orange create AstraDB button. Now, Markdown doesn't allow us to put a target blank, so if you just click on this, it's going to use the same browser tab. So I suggest you either middle click or right click and say open link in new tab, and that will bring you to your Astra interface. Now, the first time, if you've never registered or anything like that, you can use your a GitHub account. You could use a Google account. You can just fill in the details. It'll only take a moment. Again, it's free. If you've never created a database or anything like that, you're probably going to come to a screen that looks like this. A bit more. Okay, yeah. I'll zoom in as much as I can. Now, when you get to this screen, this create a database piece, right? Notice here we filled out for you database name and key space. We ask that you use these values because for the rest of the exercises, we're going to be referencing these values. So please use these. So the database name you want here is Netflix Workshop DB. So I'll just put that in the database name, or I'll hit the wrong commands, and there we go. For the key space, by the way, the key space, all it is a container of your tables. If you're coming from the relational world, this is like a database or a schema, right? So the key space is just going to contain your tables. That's all. So we're asking here that for database name, use Netflix Workshop DB. And for key space name, use this Netflix _ key space. Now for the rest of this select provider and region, this section down here, all of this information, you can choose any of these providers. It is totally up to you. You do not need an account in any of them or anything like that. Astra handles all of this, right? This is just flexibility. So you can pick any of them. I'll pick Azure today. Pick a region close to you. I'm in North America. I'm on the East Coast. So I'm going to pick something close to me. That's all you need to do. Once you've chosen a provider in a region, you'll see create database lights up. Go ahead and click create database. Thanks, all in one. Yeah. Thank you for coming today. Yeah, Nyan, this is totally possible for beginners. As again, like I said before, if you follow the instructions through, you should be fine. And if you are a totally beginner to React and such, those are those resources I was talking about. Okay, so Vimal, I see how to find the create Astra DB option. Please let me know. So in the repo that we dropped, maybe we could drop those links again.
Yep.
Then you'll see this right in the very first part of part 1, this number 1, create Astra DB. Just click that button. And by the way, you'll notice that in the repos, we have these little show me's, right? So they'll actually give you like a little animated GIF kind of showing you what to look for. Okay. So now once you've created the database, notice it might be in pending or initializing. That's totally cool. If you get here, give me a thumbs up. Let me know you're here with a thumbs up that you've gotten to the point where you have the database in pending or initializing. It could be active already. You are spinning up a full-fledged Apache Cassandra cluster here. So it does take just a couple minutes, and that's fine. But once you get to that point, let me know.
So real quick, I would like to, there are a few people have asked about the cost of Astra DB. It is free. The plan is called pay as you go because after you reach the limit of the $25 a month credit, you have the option of continuing on by paying for what you use. However, the free tier is you will get $25 of credit every single month for free, and you don't need to enter a credit card at all to get started. And even if you reach that $25, it will prompt you, but you don't have to enter it. You just wait for the next month if you want to. I have never reached my $25 limit, and I don't have a special account.
Neither have I, and I usually have a ton of databases. I mean, it's 40 gigs. It's of storage, millions of reads and writes. For all the stuff we're doing here, and even for prototype apps, even small production apps, you'll never go past the free tier. Okay, so it looks like I saw a ton of thumbs up coming in. Wonderful. So once you've gotten to that point, the next thing we want to do is go to this create a security token. Now I'm going to show you how to do this, right? You can also follow the instructions. There's also this show me that'll kind of show you what to do if you want to go about it like that as well. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, Bhavan. All right. So now, regardless, by the way, of what status your database is in, it doesn't need to be active. It could be pending or initializing. What we want to do is we want to come up here to the top left-hand corner of the Astra UI where it says your organization, and click on that. Go to organization settings. In there, you're looking for token management. What are we doing, by the way, here? Why are we going to this token? We need to create a security token. And I should just explain that for a second. So if you think about it, anytime you connect to a database or anything, you're probably used to having to supply like a username and password or whatever. That's one way to do it. It's not as secure, really, as using things like a security token and such. But when you are creating a database like this up in the cloud, in order for you to be able to access it, it needs to be publicly accessible, right? You'll find out that any of the cloud providers do this. If you go to AWS or GCP or whatever, they will all have this kind of authentication method. So this is a way we authenticate against the database. We need to create a token, right? So what we want to do here is once you're in the token management section, for today, just use database administrator and say generate token. Now, this screen that you see here is only ever going to be shown one time. That's for security. So I highly suggest you download the token details, right? When you do that, you'll want to download that as a CSV. You're going to reference this later, in particular, this token, right? This one with the Astra CS. This is the one when we ask you for the token later, which you're going to use, you want this one. You don't want the client ID and client secret, but you should download them. So go ahead and download those, hit the download button. I'll give you a moment to do that.
I just want to show something to clarify a few things. There are still some that
is it Diego's question?
Yeah, Diego's question on a stop where ask for payment. So here is the creating the Astra account, and you'll see, I would put in, my database name, whatever. When you select your provider, it has these prices, right? This, if you look up here, it says free tier up to $25 a month, right? We're going to give you $25 in credit every month. This is just showing what that provider usually charges, because it's not free for us. We are paying this. But after the $25, this is what it would cost to run. So that's just what these prices mean. It's not asking you to pay. You can just create the database. You're not giving them the credit card at all. This is, you get the free tier up to $25 a month, and that's refreshed every single month. So that, if there's confusion on that, I just wanted to clarify that when you see prices, don't freak out. That is just what it is costing us to provide this.
That's right. It's more of what it's costing us.
Yep.
And if you were to eventually go past the free tier, and if you decided that you wanted to do more with it, then that's part of the cost that gets rolled into what you see. But yeah, that's essentially what it's costing us. Okay, so if you've gotten to a point, because this is important, where you've gotten your token details, give us a thumbs up. Let us know you've gotten here, that you've created your token, because this part is important, because we're going to need this for the rest of the stuff that we do. By the way, while we're waiting for that, I saw a question there from CS Gaming. Can I do this on Android? Funny you asked that. We're working on some native mobile content right now. We don't have it just yet, but we are working on that. Can you do this? Yeah, you could totally do this on Android. But you're going to use something like React Native or Flutter or whatever. That's a whole different subject. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Let's see. Okay, cool. I think Diego's good now. Diego, let us know if you're good on that. I think you got caught up there. Want to make sure, yeah, because you shouldn't have to pay a thing. The role is database administrator. Oh, and if you mean, can you go through the workshop on Android? That's a great question. I don't know.
I've never tried.
Yeah. All right. I see lots of thumbs up and everything. Woohoo! All right. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, everybody. So let's go ahead and move on now to step 3, which is create table genre with GraphQL. So now we're going to start to use the GraphQL API. Why? Because with GraphQL, right, I do need to create my tables. I need a schema, right? I need to start to create the structure that I'm going to put the data in for our application. So with that, if we come back over to Astra, just click back in the top left-hand corner here. This will bring you back to the dashboard that we were in earlier. There we go. Now, once we're here, and by the way, all the instructions I'm going through are in the README. They're all there, right? I'm essentially just walking through them, but however you do it, it's fine. So one of two ways you can do this. Remember, we created the Netflix Workshop DB. You can either click on it here in the UI, or it'll be on the left-hand side under databases. I have so many of them that, I've got to go to. I got to open it up. But if you just click on that, you go to the detail view. In particular, I want to go to the Connect tab up here at the top. So click on the database and just go to Connect. Yeah, ProProg Gamer, it's okay if you're lagging. You'll catch up in the video. No big deal. Once you go to the Connect tab, you want to go to GraphQL API. And then from there, you're going to see the spot that says Launch GraphQL Playground, this link. This link is specific to you, right? Again, you want to middle click or right click, say Open Link in New Tab, and you want to go to your playground. This is specific to you and your database. Now, the first thing you might mention or might notice is that it says it's got this error. Why? Because we can't authenticate yet. This is where that token comes into play, okay? So at the very bottom of the playground, you should see this query variables, HTTP headers, in the section with populate me. Now, be sure when you go to put your token in there, I'm going to show you this here. Okay, I'm going to grab that token. Remember the one that has Astra CS. So this is what I had asked you to download in that CSV, right? So you want to take the token, which is the third value, the Astra CS one, and you want to populate that right here. Notice though, I still have my quotes, put it in the quotes. Notice I did not replace all of this, right? Just where it says populate me. And then when I do that, I'm no longer getting the error because it's now able to authenticate. Oh, no worries, ProProg Gamer. If you missed where the playground is, I'll do it again. So if you go back to if you're in your Astra UI dashboard, either on the left-hand side or in the view here, just choose the database. In this case, it's going to be Netflix Workshop DB, and then the Connect tab. From the Connect tab, go to GraphQL. And right there, you'll see this GraphQL playground. Just click on that. That'll launch your playground. And if you missed it, you want to first go down to the very bottom where it says query variables, HTTP headers. It'll say, I've already filled mine out, but it'll say populate me. Just replace that with your Astra token. That is the one that starts with Astra CS. And then you should look like this. Now, the first thing we want to do once we get into our playground is, like I said, we need to create some schema. We need to create some tables to put our data in for our application to talk to. So notice here this mutation. So in GraphQL, when you want to write something, you're going to do what's called a mutation. So I'm literally going to take, I have a copy widget here you should have in the Markdown, or you can just copy this, but you're literally going to take, I'm at step 3C, you're going to take this mutation. Notice what it's doing. It's saying create table. It's saying Netflix key space. Remember, we created that key space earlier. Key space is just a container of our tables. And in this case, this table name is going to be reference list. So these are going to be the, you'll see what these are in a second, the genres and stuff we're going to use. So we're creating our table. I'm going to hit the play button right there. What I want to see is where it says reference list true. It's saying, hey, I created your table. You're good to go. Connect button is there. It's not. If everything is coming red when you copy the mutation, if you're talking about like here, let's see if I invalidate something, or I wonder if it is a case where you're not authenticated properly. If you're seeing an error, if you see a server error that's over on here, like what is it, a 404, I believe, or something, that probably means you have not properly filled out your Astra token. Make sure you have the quotes, make sure those are there, and that you have the whole thing, that big long token with the Astra CS and everything.
Yep. Would you be able to zoom in
We'll
quite a bit?
Let's see how, yeah, I can try. Is that a little better?
Maybe one more.
Yeah. Okay.
There was a question. Not able to open the token file. So it downloads. Some browsers download it as just a file
Text.
without an extension. You can change that to .csv or .txt and just open it in a normal text editor, and it should be just fine. Yeah, you can open with Notepad or TextEdit or whatever.
Awesome. Thank you, Vimal. Good. Yeah, Piyush, when you say I'm not able to take token, are you saying you're not able to copy the token in here? I would say just what Ryan was talking about a moment ago. Just to, for some reason, when you downloaded the file, just open it with a Notepad or WordPad or some kind of text editor so you can copy it out. Okay. All right. So again, you should take this first command, this mutation that creates the table, reference list. That's the one we're creating. And then when you execute it, you should see this true. Now, scrolling down a little bit. Now we have a table. Now we need to put some data in the table. So what we want to do here is notice when we created the table, we have this GraphQL schema tab. That's for our schema, right? That's where we're going to create the actual object. But when we want to put data in it, we need to change over to the GraphQL tab. Notice this other tab. Now here's something to note. When you go to the other tab, you still need to put in your token, right? So one way you could do it if you want, you could just copy it from here, or you could just copy it from your file, however. So I'm going to copy it from my file. I'm going to copy over populate me and put the token in place, just like I did before. Now something different here. Notice that I still have this server cannot be reached. Here's why, right? I need to change the endpoint to point to our key space, and it's right here in the instructions. So if you take a look at the instructions, step 4A, it'll tell you right now not only to change the GraphQL tab, but to change the URL at the end from system to your Netflix key space. So when I copy this, I'm going to put that right there at the end, right? Now I'm pointed to my Netflix key space. I have my token, and look, it's no longer giving me the error. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do at step 4C, now notice this mutation. Now I'm going to insert a bunch of data. I want to insert a bunch of genres, right? Because I have some movies. I want to insert a bunch of genres. Notice too that the way it's the syntax, insert into reference list. Reference list is the table we just created a moment ago, right? So I'm going to insert all of these into reference list, and I should see something like this. Yeah, no problem. So in order to now go from the schema where I created my table to the GraphQL to insert data, I'm going to switch over to the GraphQL tab. I'm going to populate my Astra token just like we did before so I can properly authenticate against the database, right? And then right here, notice this endpoint. You have this endpoint that, again, is specific to you. It starts with system. It's going to start by saying system. You want to replace that with Netflix key space because that is the key space that we're talking to. That's where we want to insert this data. And then I'm just going to take the code that you see here. I'm going to copy it either with the widget or I can just copy the whole thing and paste that into my query section, hit the play button, and you should see something like this.
Okay, we have a an error. Mutation is undefined at create table. Make sure you are in the correct tab. For creating table, you should be in the GraphQL schema tab.
Yeah, for create table, you should, this one here. Just like Ryan said, GraphQL schema.
And what kind of language are you using for that code? We're using the GraphQL language.
Yeah, this is GraphQL.
Yeah.
Okay, Anne. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, and one more time, I do see some folks here getting tripped up on, and I totally get it in this spot right here. So once you put in your token, again, we're at the GraphQL schema. You'll notice at the very end, if I just go ahead and do it, your initial endpoint will look like this, right? But what you want to do, and it's in step 4a, you want to grab and replace system with the key space where you're using, which is Netflix key space. Then in step 4c here is the action mutations. You just copy this over, paste this in place, again in the GraphQL tab, the whole thing, and then hit play. And you should see something that looks like the right-hand side. Okay, then finally, right, we want to retrieve. So we just inserted stuff. We created a table. We inserted a bunch of genres, right? Because this is gonna, you'll see how this will support our app soon. But now we wanna make sure it worked. So we want to go ahead and query for those. So notice this time in this query, I'm not doing a mutation now. I'm not writing data. I want to get some data. So I'm going to get all the genres from the reference list table, right? And I'm going to spit out what the genre is, right? So I'll copy this. Again, I'm in my GraphQL tab. I didn't quite.
We're getting some requests for more Zoom.
More Zoom, huh?
Yeah.
If I
Make it big, man.
I'll try. I'm
Make
running
it
out of
big.
real estate for zooming more.
I know, but it's always more than you think.
Yeah, right. All right. So so here I'm just pasting in again the query from 5a. I'll hit play, and boom. So this is good. If you get to this point, give me a thumbs up if you've gotten here, because at this point you know that you have your genres, right? You've got your genres in place.
All right, Wark says that they're getting multiple errors. Token is entered correctly. If you want to give us like some of the specific errors that you're seeing, we can maybe help better. And if you want to head over to the Discord, and we can even post screenshots and we can help you more specifically. I'll post a link to the Discord.
Yeah,
we'd love to help.
Taking a look at that one. Yeah. Okay. So we'll go to the Discord. That's definitely the place to do it, especially for those who are thankfully putting in screenshots and such. We see your work, and we'll have the team kind of help you out there. Okay, wonderful. So I see a bunch of thumbs up, and don't forget too, you can always pause the video. You can go back in the video. If you're getting maybe too far behind or whatever, that could be frustrating. Just watch for now, right? This is part of the homework. You can always go back and do this later. All right. I see a lot of thumbs up still coming in, so I'll give people a moment to do that.
And Desmond, can we get a documentation of all the steps? Yes, that is what the repo is. All of the things that we're doing is described in the repo. So I'll post
that's a great
the repo.
point. Yeah, if for some reason you don't have the repository, we're not expecting that you're just going to be able to memorize everything I'm doing here. Yeah, it's all in the repo. Maybe we should drop that. Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Don't beat me to it. Woohoo! Okay. All righty. Excellent. Okay. Wonderful. All right, let's go ahead and move on. So now that means that we have our reference list table. We've inserted and mutated a bunch of genres. That's what you see here: action, anime, so on and so forth. And now we've read them back out using GraphQL, right? So we've been able to kind of actually do a set of CRUD commands. All right, so the next thing we want to do is move to step 6. Okay, so we're going to create the movies table. So we started with the genre reference, but now we need a table for our movies. So we want to go back to our GraphQL schema tab. So notice anytime I want to create the table, I'm going to go to the GraphQL schema tab. But when I want to add data and stuff, I'll go to GraphQL. So I'm going to go GraphQL schema, just like you see up here. And then I'm going to copy this mutation. Again, notice the create table. Again, our key space, Netflix key space, our table, movies by genre, right? And this is where we're going to set up the table. And you notice we have fields like things like genre, the title, the year of the movie, so on and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and just paste that over what was there. And then once it's ready, I'll hit my play button. And the same thing, notice that it says movies by genre, right? True. It means, okay, I created the table, that was successful, right? Yeah, Vineet, if you're seeing a server cannot be reached, it tells me your endpoint is probably incorrect, or that the token is incorrect. So you just have to ensure that, again, the token is good, or if you're in the GraphQL tab, that that the endpoint is actually correct. It's Netflix _ key space. Now, if for some reason earlier, when you created the database in the key space, if you use different values from the ones that we provided. So if I go back real quick in the instructions, I'll scroll up to the top. If you remember here, if you use something different from these, you will also have to reflect that in your endpoint, right? Because we're telling the endpoint we're going to the Netflix key space that we created earlier. But if you created something else, you'll need to use whatever that was, or it's not going to know what you're talking about. So I wonder if that's some of the ones that we're seeing. Okay, so hopefully you have your movies by genre table. And now we're going to go through kind of a similar format, right? Where, okay, we've got the table, and now we're going to insert some movies. So notice I'm doing a mutation. I want to write some data to the database. I'm going to mutate the data. I'm going to insert movies, and I want to insert into movies by genre. And notice the values here. Genre, year, title, synopsis, those match our table, right? We created a table with those very fields. So we're just saying, I want to put some data into the table using the fields that I created earlier. And all of this matches, if you notice, the genre is going to match something out of our, the genre table that we created. The title is just the title of the movie, synopsis is the description of it, so on and so forth. So again, since I am inserting some data into the table, I want to go back over to my GraphQL tab. And I'm going to replace what I have there and paste this in, and again, hit play. Ryan, did you have something? I thought I heard your word, or maybe you breathed it in.
So there was a question I just wanted, I typed it out, but I'll address it
okay.
as well. Lokesh asks, or it says that they're not getting anything in GraphQL window in values after step 5a. So when we move on to step 6, we are actually moving to the GraphQL schema tab. So you have to make sure that you're in the correct tab doing each command. So I think, David, you specified this, but GraphQL schema is for our creating tables, our DDL, right? We're defining our schema, we're creating tables, we're getting everything laid out. And then the GraphQL tab, the second tab there, is for our DML, our data manipulation processes. We're inserting data, we are querying data, updating things. So that is what the difference between the two tabs, and you need to make sure that you are in the correct tab to do each thing.
That's right. And Himit, so schema is to create and GraphQL is to enter. Yeah, pretty much. Now, the GraphQL isn't just to enter data. You also read data there. You update data there, right? But it's anything working with the data is in the GraphQL tab. When you're creating tables and stuff, your schema, yes, that's in the schema tab, correct. Yes, Anne, you're correct. Yeah, that's the idea. Okay, so last thing then, right? Step 8 here. If you've then inserted the movies, let's go ahead and retrieve those back out, right? Now notice again, we're not doing a mutation this time. We're doing a query. We want to query the data that we just previously mutated into the table. Again, it's our movies by genre table, right? And we'll take a look. So I'm going to replace everything that's here. I'm going to paste it in, hit play. And if all is good, right, I should actually now be seeing a set of movies that are from my sci-fi genre. So notice what we did there, right? So when I said my query, I want to get movies by genre, and I'm telling it this value, genre is sci-fi. We put in multiple genres, but we just want to see the sci-fi ones. We have some ordering in here where we're ordering by the year. And then here are the values that I want to display. And that's what we see displayed here on the right-hand side. So if you've gotten to this point, give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you're here.
Yeah, and you actually answered a question I was going to bring up. Hey there asks, during insertion in the table, inception comes first, but while running query, Prometheus comes first. Why? Because we are ordering by the year descending. So Prometheus is the most recent movie, and with the year of 2012, so it's going to be at the top. And an interesting thing, we actually didn't have to put the order by command because this is a little peek into how Cassandra works. We have the clustering columns with year as one of our clustering columns ordered by descending. And so it's actually stored that way on disk. So it will be retrieved that way, even if we did not specify the order by. Just a little tidbit. If you want to learn more about Cassandra and why it does that, we have another workshop called Introduction to Cassandra that goes into all that kind of stuff. But it's really cool. But yes, the order by year is why it's coming out in a different order than we entered it.
That's right. And just a couple quick questions to answer. Gunny, can we directly paste step 8 and get to the point where you guys are in? No, you do have to do all the previous steps because if you just go to step 8 and you try to get, but you didn't actually create the table or you didn't insert the data, you're not gonna be able to move forward. DHRuve says, following the steps, I'm with you and everything is working so far, but I'm not really understand, I don't really understand what's going on just yet. And I want to address that because I see some questions just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So we first started by creating the database, right? That's what we did in AstroDB when we created the database. And now we've got this full, Apache Cassandra cluster that is up in the cloud ready for us to go. But at that point, okay, I've got my database, but then I need to set up some type of structure. I need to be able to talk to it and have it store data, right? This is where the GraphQL piece comes into play. If you're familiar with relational databases, right, you may be familiar with like SQL, doing things in simple query language or whatever, where you're creating a table, you're inserting data. We're doing the same thing here. We're just using a different API called GraphQL in this case, right? For those of you familiar with things like REST or document DBs, you could be using that as well. But for this particular case, for the Netflix one, we're using GraphQL. So the whole point here of GraphQL is the language that we're using to create our tables, our schema, to insert the data, and to query that data out. This is the same language here under the hood that in the Netflix clone is actually being used in the JavaScript to interact with it and do things and get things out of the database. So when you launch your clone, you can actually see all the videos. So this kind of data here, this is going to start to show up in our app, right? So we're just setting up some of the back end and getting the data going. I hope that helps explain a little bit more, but GraphQL is just the language that we're using to create our schema and then set the data in the database. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, Zambav. So in this case, you're doing a copy paste kind of thing, right? To get all of this going and get this launched in production. This is the part I mentioned at the very beginning, that if you want to build this thing up from scratch, we have resources at the very end with the Anya Kabal video where you'll build it all up, right? So there's really kind of two parts to this. You know, we have one focus here, and then if you want to build it up from scratch, you'll do that with the Anya stuff. These two go together. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Harsh, I'll answer. What is the difference between a schema and a database? They're essentially the same thing. It depends on the database, unfortunately. If you're talking relational databases, some will call it a schema, some will call it a database. It's essentially just where you contain your tables. And in Cassandra, it's called a key space. It's just the container of your tables. That's pretty much what that is. Okay, so let's see. I saw a lot of thumbs up. Now I want to move on to 8b here, because this next section is important. And this is for paging, right? Why is this important? Right now, we're working with a pretty small data set. I could actually say pull out all of the movies I have for the sci-fi genre, and I've only got 4. But in a real data set, I could have millions, right? And when you're working in your application, you don't, if you have your web app and you want to display things back to your page where the user is, you don't want to just put all million things right there in that page, right? It's probably not going to work. So we use something called paging to then be able to step through the content, right? So Cassandra supports that, GraphQL does as well. So we're going to page as the next one. So again, we're at step 8b. So now we're going to stay in our GraphQL tab, and we're going to query. Again, I'm going to copy the data here. We'll go ahead and put that in. And I want you to notice something. Notice this option right here where we say page size, right? So now we're telling it, hey, I want to go ahead and page size. I want to set how many results I'm going to return on my page, and I want to return the page state. Because if you think about it, if I'm going to page through, if I have a million results and I don't want all of them, right? I want to do 2 at a time, like we're going to do in this case. Then I'm going to step through, and then the next time I want the next page, like the next 2 results, I need to know, where did I leave off? What's my cursor? Where's my my placeholder? That's what page state is. So if I execute this, notice what happens. Oh, look, I've got 2 movies now, not 4 or 5 or whatever in there, but I got this page state down on the bottom. Because we told GraphQL here, we told it I want to return that page state. Okay. So then in step 8c, all we're going to do, it's going to look almost the same, but the difference now is we're going to apply the page state. By the way, this would be the same thing. Imagine in your web app, you have your screen and you have like a little forward button, right? You want to go forward and you want to page through the data that's on your page. You would return the page state like we're doing here, just like you see here. And then when they hit that button, you're going to apply the page state on the next query. So we're going to do that. So by the way, as a tip, save this. Whatever your page state is, copy that out, put it in a text editor, and save it, right? Because we're going to use it here in a moment. Now from step 8c, I'm going to go ahead and paste this in. But notice this here. Now we're saying, hey, I want to pass in the page state. It says where it says your page state, I want this value, right? So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to copy this out. We're going to paste that in there. I want to copy the whole thing over, right? That's my page state. It's the cursor that tells me where am I going to start from. I'm going to hit play. And now it's the second 2 videos, Aliens and Blade Runner, not I'm just
Prometheus and Inception.
Yeah, Prometheus. Thank you. I just forgot, totally blanked on that, right? So you can use this in your code as you're stepping through, going from page to page to page. You just use this page state that gets returned, and you just pass this through as a value. Now, this is all in the code and everything. This is just kind of showing you from a rudimentary level how you would do that in GraphQL. Oh, is it there? That's actually kind of funny. All right, so if you've gotten to the point where you've done the paging, give us a thumbs up, let us know. Yeah, Pedro, you can totally do that dynamically. We're just doing it here in more of a hard-coded fashion, just to kind of step through it so you can see it here in the GraphQL playground. In your application, you would absolutely be doing this dynamically, where if you're going to use paging, you'd be returning back that page state and storing it. And then as you go through subsequent pages, you'd be applying the page state every time to get the page you want. Oh, lots of thumbs up from Edgardo there. That's more thumbs up than I've ever seen at once. Keep those thumbs up coming. And again, if at some point, if you've gotten stuck or whatever, that's totally okay. I would say just watch for now. You can go back. This is all self-service. You can go back and you can redo all of these types of things. I actually find it useful to go back and kind of play with a lot of these commands. The page state, Narain, when you first did the query that was in 8b, okay, notice, if I do this again, okay, notice we're saying I'm on return page state. Oh, did I? Okay. Oh, I think I just did that wrong. Didn't copy that in properly. There we go. At the very bottom, you'll see the page state. Just copy that value. That's what you need. There you go.
And yes, Jimit, the page state that we get, we can use to then get the next page. That is correct.
Yeah, and Hawkeye, you're correct. In both the GraphQL and GraphQL schema tabs, you need to have your token there at the bottom. Yeah. All right. All right. I saw tons of thumbs up. Awesome. So then what we're going to do here is move into, well, what do you think, Ryan? As far as time, I want to make sure you have enough time. We don't technically need the loaded CSV data set for this to work for everybody, but that'll be good for the homework. But I want to make sure you have enough time to get through the section that you need to so they can deploy to production.
I think we probably have enough time. I think we're doing pretty good on time.
Okay, you want me to go through the data set piece?
Yeah, I don't think it'll take too long.
Okay. All right. Sarvesh asks, why are we creating the DB first? We're doing that because in this particular case, that's actually a really neat question. If I was going through like a normal application development phase, right, and I was building something from the ground up, I'd probably start with like a local and storage thing, maybe. But in this particular case, we're actually going to deploy this out to production using Jamstack and a global CDN, and that's where Netlify and everything comes into play. So we're actually setting up the database. So when you run the app, you actually get the video. You can actually see something happen. You get some data. So that's kind of why we're doing that. But part of this is also to explain, the GraphQL piece and what we're doing there. Again, if you want, you go to the Anya video and you'll build the thing completely from scratch, right? So these kind of go hand to hand. All right, so we're going to go to step 9 here, load a CSV data set. If you're not familiar with CSV, that has comma separated values. So it'll be like a file called a .csv file. I would say the download data set button, if you just click on that, you're just going to get a bunch of data. So right click on it and say save link as. There it goes. And then again, my Mac wants to save it as a text file. You can just tell it b.csv. You can just rename it. It's not a big deal. But what you want to end up with is something that looks like this. It'll be a CSV file that's local. You see that dot? Can I zoom that actually? Oh, I can.
Probably not. Yeah.
Right. Oh, kind of. Whoops. But you'll see something that'll look like movies by genre CSV. Right. So that's what you want to see there. Now this is going to be a much larger data set. We just used GraphQL inline to just insert like a dozen values, but this is going to be a much larger data set, right? So what we want to do is once you download the data set, right, is come back over to Astra, and notice in the top right-hand corner you have this load data. Click on load data. You can drag and drop the file. You can click in here. And I want to grab my movies by genre.csv file, my data set. I'm going to add it here. And let me try to zoom in on this too, so you can see that a little better. Hopefully that's a little better. All right, once you do that, you'll see the next button light up. So this is our data set. So I say next. Now the next piece, this is going to show you a preview of the data, right? It shows you what columns are here. It shows you what type they are, and then you actually see a preview of the data. This obviously isn't all the data, but it lets you know kind of, what does the data look like and how is it being parsed when the tool picks it. Now we want to take this data. These are our movies by genre, right? This, by the way, if you remember a moment ago, we were inserting data just like this, right? So now we're just pulling it from a CSV file. We want that same table, that movies by genre table. We're going to put that in the table name. And for the partition key, now this is in the instructions, but I'll tell you what it is. Here we go. This will be in step 9D. The partition key, this is what we're going to partition by. This is like our primary key if you want. Genre. Just pick genre. That's all you need to do, right? So the table is movies by genre. And the partition key is genre. That's it. Say next. Then the last thing is you want to tell it what's the target database and the target key space. Remember earlier, we created a database called Netflix Workshop DB, and then we want Netflix key space. That's our key space. That's the one we've been working out of. Then GBath 69, pick database administrator for now. That'll work for your token. All right, so I want Netflix Workshop DB and Netflix key space. Say next, and it'll say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and load this. You'll get an email when it's done, right? It shouldn't take too long, but it's now going to take that and it's going to, in the background, it's going to load that data up and it's going to inject that into your database. And at that point, yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
So there's a couple of people who are saying they can't download the CSV file. Make sure you right-click that link, that button.
Yeah.
And save link as, and then it'll download rather than just open it.
If you just try to open it, you're going to get something that looks like this. It's just the data, right? That's not going to be helpful. Yeah, so what Ryan said is right-click on it. Make sure you do save link as.
Yep, and it'll probably default to TXT, and then you can change it to CSV.
That's right.
It'll be fine.
It's unfortunate that regardless of what the actual file name is, so many OSs will be like, no, I'm going to rename this to what I want to. So a lot like my Mac will try to put it to .txt. You just need to rename that. If you're not familiar with it, by the way, here, let's just go ahead and do it for fun. Because if you're not familiar. So notice the default format will be text, movies by genre. I'll save it. Okay, great. It saved as a .text file. But what I really want is I want to come over here and just rename this to .csv. There's a bunch of different, it's going to yell at me if I try to do it because I already have one. But yeah, you just need to rename it. That's all. Oh, awesome. Good, Benjibeth. I'm glad that worked. All right, so let's see. Right, we should be at the point that hopefully you have an email that says that, hey, we've loaded your data for you. And then that is it for this section. I guess I'm going to show my email. Is that dangerous? Is that a bad idea?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, it should see something like this, right? And I'll say, hey, once it's done, it'll let you know. Now, the cool thing is for the time being, we can move on, right? So while everybody's data is loading in the background, we can totally move on and do the next piece. So if you've gotten here, though, where you've at least loaded the data, give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you've loaded the data, even if it's running in the background.
All right.
Cool, honey. Nice. Honey Patel. I like that one.
All right, I'm seeing some thumbs up. That's great.
Yeah. Awesome. Keep them coming. No name.
Prashanthi asks, after doing work, should we stop running or something so as not to reach $25?
Oh.
So let me just give an example. I have been doing these workshops for several months, and I have never, ever run into the limit of $25 a month.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you notice how many databases I have, and I've had plenty of others that I've deleted that had a lot more transactions in this. I've never even come close to hitting the 25. So for all the workshops, everything we do, if you're experimenting, you'll probably never hit the $25 credit. And that, again, that rolls over every month. Again, at 40 gigabytes of storage and many millions of reads and writes, you could even have small production workloads and you'll still be free. Yeah.
Frisian asked about clustering columns. That's a little bit outside the scope of today's workshop. We didn't worry about them because we didn't have to. If you want to learn more about clustering columns, we have the workshop Introduction to Cassandra, which talks in depth about them. It's basically a way to sort our data on disk. It is pretty cool. But all right, I will take over now. I see a lot of thumbs up, which is great. So we have just gone through the process of setting up our database and getting some data in there, right? So this is our first step of getting this clone up and running. We need to have a data set to work with. So that is what we have done so far. Now we are going to work on deployment. And we're going to be using Netlify. Now, for those of you who are coming back from last week, this is going to be very familiar. The process will be pretty much identical. But for those of you who are new, Netlify is our hosting solution, and it is a global CDN, which means it's hosting the site not in a central server, but on the edge of, I don't know, how do they describe it? It's just kind of on the multiple different sites regionally, globally distributed, so that the site is closest to the end users. And it also allows us to use serverless functions, so we don't have to worry about backend infrastructure. And to edit some of our code and to get kind of a dev site running, we're going to be using Gitpod, which we've mentioned is a cloud-based IDE that will run directly from GitHub, which is really useful. If you're working locally, that's fine. There's a lot of prep stuff that we added to Gitpod to get everything up and running. Some like node versions, npm versions, that kind of stuff. So all the details are in the repo. So if you are working locally, make sure you read that and make sure that you have the right stuff. So we're gonna have our code hosted on GitHub, which will then sync to Netlify. I'm putting emphasis on weird points. Netlify will connect with our GitHub repo, and anytime that we make changes, like in Gitpod, to our repo, those changes will be pushed automatically to Netlify. It will run a build command on the repo, create the latest master, the latest build, and automatically host it on Netlify and have the connection to our database using the serverless functions. So it's a really useful kind of turnkey solution for our hosting. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to go over to the repo. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to click this deploy to Netlify button. Now, obviously, you probably don't have a Netlify account if you are if this is your first session. If you are coming back from last week, you probably do have a Netlify account. That's fine. We're just going to connect it to a new GitHub repo. So I'm going to click this deploy to Netlify button. And what this is going to do is ask me to connect to GitHub. So this is basically connecting Netlify to my GitHub account, kind of logging in through the GitHub. And it will allow me to create a new repository based on our repository, right? So we have our repository that you're working through. This is going to create a clone of that repo in your own GitHub account and connect it to Netlify so everything is working great. So I'm going to click save and deploy. It'll think for a little bit, and you'll see this site deploy in progress. Jimit, is this process totally the same as TikTok deploy? Yes, it'll be pretty much exactly the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so site deploy in progress. You can see that it is working. If I click on this link, hold on, let me zoom in. If I click on this link, and then I scroll down, you'll see there's a build happening right now. It's currently in building state. If I click on this, I can see that actually happen, right? I can see all the things that it's running. It's running the build commands, blah, blah, blah. So we can watch this work. And what we're waiting for is for build complete, basically a successful build. And if it gets to that, it will also create the repo in our GitHub account and push the code to our repo. And that's what we're waiting for and looking for confirmation for. It shouldn't take too long. But while that's doing that, if there are any questions, we can handle that. Metal Shaman asks, can we get a recording for this session? Yes, all of our sessions are recorded and they're available at the same YouTube link. So if you want to bookmark this page and come back to it later, it will be available later. No, Casey, you hit the Netlify link from the provided repo. That is fine. That is expected. what it's going to do is create a repo. When you connect with your GitHub account, it's going to create a new repo in your GitHub account with the same code. It's going to clone the repo. And then you'll navigate back to your repo when we work through Gitpod later. So you're good. Da-da-da. Can I do the project later after watching recorded sessions? Absolutely. Yep.
Absolutely. Yep. And you can always reach out to us on our Discord channel. If any point, if you ever get stuck or if you need help or if you have questions, just come out to Discord and come talk to us. We kind of have a follow the sun team because we have folks all over the world on the team. So we'll have someone eventually help you.
All right. Authenticating failed due to the following error. We already have a registered user with this email address. Log in to connect to your GitHub account. Okay. Is that were you here last week? Did you do the
I was
TikTok
going to
edit?
ask if it was with us before. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that so we have seen that in very rare cases because someone had an account, a Netlify account not associated with GitHub, and then there was an issue. There's a workaround. We have a fix for it, but
It should work. Yeah, it
Okay,
should
you're not
actually. You shouldn't need to authenticate against it. Let me ask Stefano. He went through that this morning, actually.
yeah. All right, so as you can see, I have Netlify build complete. And then if I scroll down to the bottom, you should see pushing to repository, and it has my new repository that it created for me. So that is what we're looking for. And if you successfully get to this point, give us a thumbs up, and we'll be waiting to make sure that everyone is caught up. Yeah, Adit, Stefano is helping you out. Anyone else that has that error, Stefano is going to walk you through the workaround. It's a very rare occurrence. Hopefully, Adit is the only one that is facing that. But project demo, where am I checking logs? So in Netlify, I came in to, where did I come in? Site overview. There would be a build in progress here. It'll be yellow. You can click that link. It's not there for me because it's already done, but I can go to deploys, and then this will say building if it's still building. Mine says published because it's done, but if you click this link right here, that will bring you to the logs. All right. How to download the dataset? That is step 9 in the repo. You can follow that. If you want to wait on that, that's totally fine. You can do this part that we're going through right now without downloading the dataset. So I would probably recommend follow along with us where we're at, and then download the full dataset later. You do not have to do that first. Do we need to install the Netlify GitHub app? No. I don't know. I'm not sure what that is. No, you should not have to. You're just going to connect Netlify to GitHub.
Correct.
Victor, I ran a git clone on the repo before the session and just linked to Netlify from the console. Is that okay? Yes, that sounds like it should be just fine. Netlify is a kind of Heroku, question mark? Yes, it is very similar. Heroku is more of a general app hosting service. Netlify is more focused on web apps and provides things like serverless functions and that kind of stuff. I know Heroku is similar in a lot of ways, but I think Netlify is a little more focused in what it provides. So, okay, so I'll move on. I see a lot of thumbs up. So, okay, cool.
Yes, Lokesh, if you don't have a GitHub account, you will need to create one to continue. And again, that should be free as well.
Yep, definitely free. All right, so I'm going to move on. I see a lot of thumbs up. I'm going to move on. So if I scroll back up and I go back to deploys, you'll see I have my app now, right? So I've got an app that is being hosted already. And then it has the GitHub account that it's linked to. And this is my personal repo now instead of the one that we started with, instead of the DataStax devs one. This is my personal one. So I'm actually going to click this link. I'm going to open it in a new tab. I'm just going to move this window over here. So make sure that you are navigating to your repo now that has been created by Netlify by clicking this link, right? The github.com/yourname/appdev week 3 GraphQL. That is where you want to go next, right? Don't go back to our repo because we're going to be starting to work in the repo and you want to work out of your own one. So let me go back to where we were. So we're on step 2 right now. We clicked on that GitHub link and we're going to launch Gitpod IDE. Now we have a few warnings, and this is basically making sure that you are working out of your own repo. So I want to make sure that it's stated several times. Make sure that the repo that you're in is not the DataStax devs repo, but your own personal repo, okay? And then we're going to launch Gitpod, and you can get the Gitpod link by dropping down the click here section and clicking open in Gitpod. Now, if you're in Safari or Brave, this link won't work because they don't allow referral links. If you're in Chrome or Firefox, this link will work just fine. So we recommend using Firefox or Chrome just for this part, just for ease of use. There is a way to get Brave and Safari. You can like create the link yourself. Actually, hold on. I want to open this in a new tab. So I'm going to open Gitpod in a new tab. Move it over to my other window. And I'm going to continue with GitHub. So Gitpod is also going to log in with your GitHub account. And it will start creating a workspace. Akash, how do you open a repo on Gitpod? So we have a link in the repo, in the README that you can click to open it. Gitpod also has a browser extension. I know for Chrome for sure, probably for Firefox, that it will add, if I scroll up, you can see it'll add this button right here that you can click to open the repo in Gitpod. It's kind of cool. Okay, so we're launching in Gitpod. All right, so when Gitpod starts up, there are a few things that it does at the beginning. Now, this is one of the reasons that we recommend using Gitpod rather than a local IDE. Obviously, you are free to do so if you'd like, but there are a few scripts that run in Gitpod. For one, npm install, which will install all the dependencies that are needed for the app, and it will install a few other libraries. I think, are we installing Netlify CLI right off the bat?
Yes, okay. I believe so.
So some of the Netlify connection libraries, the Netlify CLI, is automatically installed as well. It's basically just setting up the entire environment to work right out of the box without us having to do anything. So that's what it's doing right now. If you are working locally, you will have to run npm install at the very least. And we'll actually mention the CLI thing in a little bit as well. So we're just going to let this finish. npm install tries to download the internet, which is fine.
Download the internet.
It's a joke. It doesn't actually, but it takes a while.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of, right.
Dun, 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 dun. All right. Yes, and Kirsten is putting in the YouTube chat the requirements. If you're working locally, the requirements for this app is that you need Node 15 and NPM 7. So if you're working locally, make sure that you have those updated to those versions. Cedric. Can you please wait for 2 minutes? I had to switch Chrome from Brave. Yep, we'll wait.
Yeah, no
I have to wait. I have to wait for npm anyway. Data loader, Vimal, for the data loader, for the keys, for the partition key, you want to choose genre, and you can leave the clustering columns blank. Adit, are you still having some issues? I know Stefano was assisting you. Oh, it was step 2 and step 3. So if you have more any further questions, it's probably, you know, we've got about a half hour left before we're done with this workshop. I'd suggest going to Discord, joining our Discord, and being able to, you'll be able to ask further questions there. I can't really go back to step through. Sorry, step 2 and 3 of the part 2 that we're on right now. Okay, sorry. Yes, I will address that. So step 2, you want to make sure that you're in your own repo, right? So if I go to Netlify, where I've started, and after the build is done, it will push the code to a new repo, and it will give us a link to that repo here. So I'm in the deploys section. Actually, I think site overview, you can also click on this link too. But this gives us a better URL. So this is the repo that it's coming out of. And if I go there, it'll open our personal repo. And that's what we're working out of. And then for connecting to Gitpod, in your repo, the README will still be there. And when you launch Gitpod, you can scroll this down. And you can click this link right here. Open that in a new tab, and it'll launch Gitpod. The link will only work in Chrome and Firefox. If you're using Safari or Brave, you'll have to create the referral link yourself, which David just put in the chat. You can see it'll be gitpod.io/# then the URL to your GitHub repo is basically what it is. Oh, and it works in Edge as well. Okay, well, that makes sense. It's basically Chrome. All right. So, I'm still waiting for Gitpod to finish up, but if you guys are also waiting for Gitpod, give me a thumbs up so we can get a sense of if people... And if you guys are done, if your Gitpod is already done, I'm jealous. But let me know. All right, ID, looks like you got it. That's awesome. Glad I could help. Sarvesh, what is David typing?
I'm typing to all of you.
His novel that he works on. Whenever I'm doing the workshop,
it's because I'm typing to all of you. I'm trying to keep up with
the,
all your questions.
The latest teen fantasy novel.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Oh, we didn't talk about the novel I was writing. That's true. Yeah, by the way, with Gitpod, the first load always takes more time just because you got to download all those dependencies and stuff. On subsequent loads, when you're actually using it as an IDE, it tends to go a little faster. And just to also, a question that came in earlier about Gitpod, because somebody observed this, they noticed we're clearly installing like NPM and Node and stuff for them. Yes, we are. That's actually part of what we do with the Gitpod setup. We pre-configure it. If you're curious, you can take a look at the .gitpod.yaml file that you see in there, and that'll show you all the things that are being installed for you. This is how, when we have you launch Gitpod, this is how we're handling all the prerequisites instead of having you do it manually, right? That way we can start you off kind of on a happy path, if you will. But if you're curious, yeah, just take a look at that file.
All right. Cool, mine finally finished. Next time you open Gitpod, what are the things you should do again to run the app? It will probably, if the workspace is still active, it won't have to go through this whole thing that we just went through where it installs npm and everything, or npm install all the dependencies. It shouldn't have to do that again. And you can just run the npm start, which will, or I guess Netlify dev is what we're going to be running. But we'll go through how to start the app here in just a little bit. Sparsh npm still installing. Yeah, that'll take a little bit. Can we change the repo name? You can, though Netlify is expecting that repo now, so you'll have to change it.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest changing it after the fact. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd suggest not either. If you really wanted to, you'd have to make sure that you change it everywhere it's referenced, which would be Netlify.
Yeah.
At the very least. Yeah. Metal Shaman, can we share links for week 1 and week 2 sessions? Yeah, we'll get those links in the chat here in just a bit. Have one of the moderators do it. Okay, so just to make sure, one of the first things we want you to do is type in git remote -v. And this is just to make sure that you are working out of your own repo and not the DataStax devs repo. So when you type this, you should see your name, your username here, not DataStax devs. So just one last check, because it does not work if it's not in your own repo. So sure, Ash, you've changed the repo name. You think you're in trouble. Well, let us know how it goes. You're on your own.
Yeah, that's what I was just typing. Like, however that goes, let us know. But you can always, the cool thing about any of this, by the way, right? You can wipe out the repo. You can wipe out the Netlify stuff. You can do this as many times as you want. I have in Netlify alone. I mean, we don't own Netlify or something. We just use them as a Jamstack global CDN stuff, and they're wonderful. We doing these workshops, I've probably created hundreds of sites, and I'm still on the free tier. And
Yeah.
I've deleted and recreated and deleted and recreated. So if you really need to, you can wipe out all of this and you can start again and you'll be fine.
Yep. Victor Sherman says that he sees his, but also see DataStax's upstream. I'm assuming you're working locally and have cloned the repo locally. If you want to confirm that, that will be fine because you're still working on your local stuff. But if you're in Gitpod and you see that, then something's up.
Yogesh, I'll drop you a link. We're going to drop it at the end as well. But at the very, very bottom of the repo, you will find the Anya Kabal section where if you want to start it up from scratch, watch her video and build it up that way. But I'll drop you the link as well. And
Vimal asked about use a different repository name instead of the default. If you are still in the Netlify part where you're copying the repo or like connecting it to Netlify, you can change the name there for sure, and it'll create the repo in your own account with that new name. That's fine. It's if you've already done that and try and change the name in GitHub, Netlify is gonna freak out probably, and you'll have to change it there too. So, Vimal, to answer your question, you can use whatever your name you want when you are actually setting it up in Netlify the first time, and it should be fine. Okay. All right. So yes, git remote -v just to make sure that you are in the correct repo. If all is good, then we're going to install Netlify CLI. Now, Gitpod should do this automatically, but if you are working locally, this is a good thing to go over, and it does not hurt us to do it again. So I just copy. Ooh, no, I have to allow. So I'm going to copy paste. You have to allow it. So I'm going to do npm install -g, which means globally Netlify CLI. And so what this is going to do is add some Netlify functionality to our local, and obviously in Gitpod it's in the cloud, but this is our local code, right? So it's actually going to let us spin up a local site and a local Netlify server that will serve up our serverless functions and all that good stuff without actually pushing it to Netlify yet. So it's kind of a first step. It also gives us some really useful commands for uploading environment variables to Netlify without having to do a bunch of copy paste stuff. So dun, dun. Yes, Akash, I just installed Netlify. While you guys are doing that, it shouldn't take too long, but I'll answer some questions. Ember, homework done. Wow, you are fast. If you have not done the homework of the previous weeks, go check those out and get your gold badge and enter to win that $500 gift card. How to change the dark theme? The dark theme. That's a good question. I don't know why they defaulted to the light theme recently. They used to default.
Yeah, I'm
to
not
dark
sure why
theme.
they did that either. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
They just made a recent change. It used to use Thea, and now it supports VS Code. I mean, it has for a while, but all of a sudden one day it just went and like went to the light theme.
Yeah. I don't know. There is an option. You have to find it. I'm not going to spend too much time looking for it, but I feel yeah. It's actually easier for people to see on stream when it's not dark theme. I don't have to zoom in quite as much, so that's good. Da, 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 da. Anya Kubao is a Netflix engineer. No, she had a Netflix engineer on her video.
Right, they actually went through her clone, and to
Yeah.
be clear, the clone is, you know, it's not all of Netflix or something like that, right? But it's kind of enough to get you going, especially from some of the UI components. But they did have a Netflix engineer, or she did have one, take a look and kind of give the thumbs up, right?
Yeah, it was really cool. But yeah, she is not a Netflix engineer. She's a YouTube, coding YouTuber, influencer, whatnot.
Yeah, she's wonderful. Anya Kabal is great. She has, if you're looking for like getting started stuff and you want that base explanation, she's got a ton of wonderful videos where she will just build it up from nothing, right? And that is the video at the end of the repo. That's exactly what that is, and that's why we were saying in the beginning that what we have and what she's done, we've paired together, right? So it really kind of goes hand in hand. It's kind of like two big parts.
Yeah, Nadit comments about that they wished we would have created the UI. Yeah, that's the Anya's video goes through all that. Again, we have 2 hours in this workshop. We can't do everything, and we wanted to focus on the GraphQL part of things and getting the data modeling all worked out. It's kind of a part that is kind of it's really complementary to Anya's video, I think. Is a good way to think about it. Okay. Can we expect more webinars from you in the coming days? We do workshops every single week, so we'll talk about that later. Let's move on. Looks like Sarvesh has the fix for dark mode, so if you guys want to do dark mode, follow his instructions.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks, Sarvesh.
All right, so we've installed Netlify CLI. Now we need our application token, right? This is how we connect to our database, so we need to get that again. If you have your tokens, the CSV available, go ahead and grab that token again. I'm going to have my window still open, so I'm just going to copy it here. We're also going to need the GraphQL endpoint, and we'll show where to find this. It can be sometimes a little tricky. It's the one, if you still have your playground open, it's the one that's this URL in the GraphQL tab, not the schema tab. It's this URL up here. So you can copy that, but I'll also show where to find it in AstraDB as well. So we're going to need our token and our endpoint, and we're going to create our environment variables. Now, what are environment variables? They are basically our sensitive information, right? We don't want to have our token or our endpoint necessarily exposed to the outside world. So we don't want this stored in our GitHub, which is publicly available. People can see our GitHub account and all the code there. We don't want to have this stored there. So we're going to store it in an environment variable, which is not copied to GitHub. And this is basically just a place for the app to reference that information and not have it be hard-coded in anywhere. So what I'm going to do is we have this .env.sample, and I'm just going to copy .env.sample to .env, right? So this should just create a copy of that file and call it .env. So this is what our file will look like. And in our application token here, you just highlight this, make sure you get those brackets as well, and you paste your token. And then we're going to put our endpoint here. Now I'll show you where to find that endpoint if you have already closed Playground. So if you go to your database, right? So mine is named different because I had one that is stuck on terminating for some reason. And you go to your Connect tab. And then you click on GraphQL API. Right? Just as if you were going to the playground, right? And then you scroll down. You go scroll down past the GraphQL playground, past all these images, and right here. So under the right data section, this URL right here, which should end in Netflix key space, right here. This is the URL. This is the endpoint. So I'm going to copy that. Go back to my IDE, and paste it here. All right. So I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna leave this up for you guys so that you can kind of find it. This is in the Connect tab in the GraphQL section. What was the command for .env file? So I typed in the terminal, I typed cp for copy, and then I typed the .env.sample, which is our sample version of it, and then I typed .env. So it's basically just copying the .env.sample to a new file called .env. If you want to use the GUI, you can also just right-click. Maybe you can't do that. You could create a new file as well called .env. This is the fastest way, though. Yeah, Cedric also has a command, touch.env will just create a new file called .env. You will have to make sure that you add the Astra DB application token equals part and the Astra GraphQL endpoint equals part before the stuff that we've copied elsewhere. Bum, 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 bum. Avinash, we will go over the homework. Basically, what we're doing now, this whole process, is what the homework will be. It's successfully deploying the app to Netlify and adding your own unique movie data is what the homework is. So if you're following along, then you will have pretty much 90% of it done. You'll just have to add your own custom movie. If you're just watching, that's a really good way to just like get an idea of how to do everything. And then when you go back, and do it for real, it'll be easier. Divi could not type in the terminal what to do. It might still be installing stuff, npm installing stuff. So make sure you wait until you see the gitpod /workspace, you know, this thing with the $sign at the end. That means that it's ready to type in. If it's still doing something, it you won't be able to type. Okay. So once we're there, once you have your .env all ready to go, you can make sure you save it. And we're just going to run a real quick npm install. This should go really quick because I'm pretty sure everything else, everything should be good. This is just to make sure that all the dependencies are done. All right, so we're good. So now we're going to run the application. Netlify dev will spin up a basically a Netlify server locally using the Netlify CLI, which will provide us our serverless functions. And we'll be able to see our app start up. How to save? I just am typing Command S, or I guess Control S if you're on Windows. Yep, all the shortcuts that you would normally use in an IDE will work in Gitpod. Oh, Cedric mentioned that autosave is enabled, so that's good too. I'm used to saving like every 2 seconds.
Yeah, I'm an avid saver as well. Yeah, autosave should be on, but yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay, all right. My window is a little small, but we can see I have the app. Right here. I'm gonna just refresh real quick. You can click this link on the top right. That'll pop it out into a new tab, so it's a little bit bigger. Now mine does not have the movies are not populating. That's weird. Let's see if we can figure that out.
You mess it all up, Ryan.
Well,
Seriously.
I don't know. It's just.
Oh, do you have? Let's see your ENV. This is the someone was. I can't. It's actually too small on my screen. Let's see.
Wait, do I have to zoom in?
Oh, and you used the example I just added today. No, it's my screen. That's my fault on that one.
Okay.
Which one is that? Is that your local that doesn't have any movies?
Yeah, it's my local.
I took one of mine. Let me run mine again.
Yeah, so my env file must be malformed. Let's see. So I'm going to go back to my manage database, my connect page. It's a GraphQL API. And there should be some connection variables. Maybe it's... baby application token, that should be right. Let's see. Live debugging is always the best, huh?
You know, if check the end of your GraphQL endpoint. Is it pointed to the right? Is it on the right endpoint for one? And is it going to Netflix key space?
Yes.
And you have to. Okay.
Yep. And I copied this out of the Astra account as well. So
Did you try turning it off and turning it on again?
Let me try. So I'm going to stop the server and try it again.
You know, I'll be curious. I'll just give you mine and be very interested to see if it makes a difference. Let's see. Where do you want me to put them? You want me to put them in your Slack?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I'll put them right directly to you.
Oh, hold on. It's working.
Oh.
I turned it off and turned it back on. You were right.
Ha! That's too funny.
All right. So if there's no data, try stopping the server and restarting it. Control C in the terminal is to stop the server. And then you can start it again. So not sure exactly why that happened, but we're good. So now we can see we have our Netflix clone running, right? And all of this data, you know, the title, the description, even the link to the thumbnail, which is the movie playing in the background, all these things is data that we entered either through our GraphQL playground or uploading through our CSV, and it's being retrieved using GraphQL, right? So you can see all these things autoplay when we hover over. And then when we scroll down, the next sections will load in. So this is the infinite scrolling, paging. You know, it's not loading everything at once. It's only when we get to the bottom that it'll start loading the next section. Sparsh and Sarvesh, if you press Control in your terminal here where it's running, if you press Control C, that's how you end the process. All right. So real quick, I know we have just a few minutes left. We have it locally, but we haven't actually deployed it to production. So let's do that real quick. It shouldn't take too long. I'm going to end the process, Control C, right? So we get our terminal back and I can type. And we're going to type in Netlify login. And this is basically going to let us log into our Netlify through our Gitpod. And here's the deal. This won't work in the simple browser. We have to actually, can I open it with this? Yeah. So if you click on in your simple browser that it pops up on the top right of that, this open in browser, it opens it in a new tab. Click on that and it will bring you to the Netlify thing, right? And then you click authorize. And that means we've granted it access. If we go back to Gitpod, we'll see that you are now logged into your Netlify account. That's great. And now we type in Netlify link. And what this is going to do is copy all of the environment variables, which is just the two, the token and the endpoint. Copy those from our environment variable or .env file and copy them up to our site. So what it asks us a few questions. How do you want to link this folder to a site? The first option should be what you want. The default is just whatever repo that we are currently using. And it should be good. And if we go to our site, if we go to our site settings on Netlify and we scroll down, oh, we have to go to, where is it? Is it access control? No. Build and deploy. That's what it is. If we go to build and deploy, we will see environment variables. Now, if we refresh, oh no, did it not do it? Is there another command that I was missing? Ah, yeah, there it is. I mean, I did not do this command yet. So netlify env import.env. This is the command that will actually upload the environment variables. My bad. There we go. Now it should be good. If I go to our Netlify and I refresh here, we should see that Netlify now has, where'd it go? Our environment variables right there, our application token and our endpoint all populated there. We didn't have to do any copy paste. We just ran a command, which is awesome. And now if we do Netlify build, this is going to create, basically builds our app. And then we're going to run the deploy script, Netlify deploy to production. And that will push it to Netlify and be all up on our live production site. Project demo, thank you. Yes, we put a lot of effort in getting our GitHub README files as complete as possible so that it is easily followable, you know, on your own. They're designed to be self-service. So we appreciate the kind words. We put a lot of work into them. All right, so the Netlify build completed. I'm going to run Netlify deploy production, and this should push it to production. And we should be able to open our live site. All right, and so we can run this Netlify open site if we want. We can also, if we go to Netlify, scroll up to the top, go to site overview, and click this link right here, netlify.app, right? It'll be a random name, but this is actually live. This is accessible by anyone now, and you can see all of our data is there. Awesome. So give us a thumbs up if you have successfully deployed to production. And we will now, I think it's time for our quiz for some prizes. Awesome. Lots of thumbs up. Perfect. Very, very cool. All right. So with that, I'll just make sure that we are on to the next thing. Yes. All right. So it's time for our quiz. Let's win some prizes. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right.
Who wants to win the prizes? I did see somebody asking earlier about the Apache Cassandra shirt and how do you buy one? You don't buy one, you win one.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want, I believe it's actually this shirt. So
I don't have one.
Oh.
I know. I don't have one.
I have a whole closet full of them actually. Oh, no. But I don't think anybody wants the one I've been wearing. Right? Yeah.
No, I want a fresh one.
Probably.
All right. So menti.com, enter the code. I post the code in the chat. Also, you can see the code at the top of the screen. I'll also bring up that big screen. So a few things to note about this quiz. Speed in answering, not only getting the correct answer, but speed in answering is affects your score. So the recommendation is watch your phone or the tab that you have Menti open in, not the stream, because the stream has a little bit of a delay. So if you're waiting for the stream to know what the question is, you're going to be a little bit late on the jump there. So watch your phone, watch the other tab that Menti is in, and answer as quickly as possible to get the most points. So menti.com, enter the code 62793278. You'll see it here. It'll also be at the top of the screen up here as well. We'll get a bunch of people in here. Looks like we have a few. Yeah, we got a good amount. I'll give it just a few more seconds before we get started, I can actually move on to the next screen and see all the people's pictures. It'll probably auto-populate a name for you. I think you can change it after the first question or something like that. Something while we're waiting for that, you know, I see a lot of people were hoping that we would do more of the React stuff, right? And I totally understand that. React is something I love to do, so it's a little bit of a bummer that we couldn't fit it into this workshop. However, we have, if you rewatch the To-Do app, which is week 1 from a couple weeks ago, we do a lot more React in that one. We also have a React Basics workshop that we have put together. It's just a GitHub workshop right now. It's just a repo that we go through kind of the basics of getting started with React and getting a Create React app started up. So that would be a really good thing. I think we can get a link to that as well. But yeah, definitely want to do more specifically React things in the future, and hopefully we'll be able to do that. So, all right. So I think we have enough people in here. Let's get started. All right. First question. Remember, answer fast to get more points. What is AstraDB? It is managed Cassandra in the cloud. It is a local in-memory database. It is a movie with Brad Pitt. It's a gateway to the stars. Uh-oh. Cool. Yes, it is managed Cassandra in the cloud. That is correct. Yes, most of you got that correctly. All right, let's see what our leaderboard looks like. Let's see who the fastest one was. Looks like Scientist Exakali, that's an interesting name, was the fastest. Congratulations. It's pretty close, though. All right, question 2. All right, answer fast to get more points. In GraphQL, which operations do you use to edit data? Query, edit, writes, mutation, or pencil? Nishant, no options showed on my screen. Oh no, that's a bummer. Are you on your phone or are you on a browser? That sucks. I'm sorry. All right. Yes, it's a little tricky because GraphQL is probably new for a lot of people, but mutation is the operation you use to edit data. Query is used to read data, and edit and writes were just gotchas. The pencil is just a joke. All right. Let's see what our leaderboard looks like. All right. Fastest was Rakesh. Congratulations. Bumps him up to the top. And RNJ is in second. And Ramya is in third. Still a very close game, though. It's anyone's game. All right, question 3. Just as a note, we are going to stick around for a Q&A after the session. So for some of your questions,
right.
we will get to them. All right, what can't you do with GraphQL? Auto discoverability, schemaless, federation, response customization. Now, this is going to be a really tricky one because we didn't specifically talk about it, but you probably can glean from what we did talk about that it's one of these. Let's see how many people get it right. I know it's a little bit of a tricky one. All right, so the actual answer is schemaless. You cannot do schemaless with GraphQL. You need to have a schema for GraphQL. Federation and auto discoverability and response customization are all things you can do with GraphQL. I know that one was definitely a tricky one. So let's see what our leaderboard looks like now. All right, let's see who the fastest was. Rakesh is still the fastest. Congratulations. Right on the heels is Ramya, and RNJ is now in third. All right. Question 4. What are the terms used for paging? You know, we talked about paging and how to get that to work in GraphQL. It's paging size and paging cursor, page number, page size and page state, or book title and bookmark. Akash selected schemaless because of the song in the start of the video.
I was just about to respond to that, yeah.
So lucky. So lucky, because it has nothing to do with that. Page size and page state is correct, yes. Yes, this one a little tricky too, because we have some similar named things. But yes, page size and page state is what we use in GraphQL for paging. All right, let's see what a leaderboard looks like. All right, the fastest was still Rakesh, increasing the lead. Ramya is still very close though, and RNJ holds on to third. All right. Question 5. What is Netlify? It's a platform to build and deploy web apps. It's a Java application server. It's a code review tool. Little typo there. It's a software to calculate your tax rate. All right, yes, pretty much everyone got that correct. A platform to build and deploy web apps. That is correct. Awesome. All right. Looks like Rakesh is still the fastest. It's impressive. Ramya is still in second, and RNJ is still in third. It's still pretty close, though. Things could change with the last question. Let's get to that. Question 6. What is the main benefit of using serverless functions? Now, we did mention this. We didn't go deep into serverless functions in this one. If you want to learn more about that, TikTok, the week 2, we definitely dive further into that. But we did mention
Then
this.
we can talk about it more in the Q&A session after too.
Yes, definitely, yeah. The Q&A can be on any topic, so keep them coming. All right. Let's see what it is. All right, yes, most people got that correct. No backend infrastructure is needed is the correct answer. Let's see if that changed anything in our leaderboard. All right, for those of you who are our top 3 winners, which it looks like is Rakesh, Ramya, and RNJ, congratulations. Take a screenshot of your screen, of your winning screen. Make sure you get that screenshot, and you're going to email that screenshot to jack.fryer@datastacks.com. We'll get that info in the chat, and we'll have a slide for it too. And that's how you're going to claim your swag. And we deliver swag worldwide, doesn't matter where you are, we will get it to you. So make sure you get that screenshot. But we have one more question. This is not for the quiz. We just want to get a quick survey on what we should improve for next session. What is something that you would like to see us do differently? Just, we're continually trying to improve our sessions. I'll leave that up for you guys to answer. But yeah, actually, that thing that happened before, it was my slides crashing, which is...
Yeah, and Rahul, the question from the past workshop, yeah, we don't change the questions all the time for every workshop. And Rowdy, it's not because it's pre-recorded. It's just because we don't change the questions for all the workshops.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you were here from last time and you got all the answers because you knew them, shame on you for cheating. Just kidding. I need to get... Hold on, I need to get my slides back. Do you happen to have the slides up, David?
Oh, I can.
Yeah, mine crashed earlier. Hold on, I think I can get it up. I've never had...
Where do you need me to go?
Just the last few slides.
Yeah, for like homework and stuff?
Yeah, homework and stuff.
Okay.
All right, swag winners.
Okay, I got it.
We'll start with that one. Cool, thank you.
Yep, got it.
All right, so for those of you who are top 3 winners, congratulations. If you want to email your screenshot to jack.fryer@datastacks.com, that is how you can claim your swag. So we have that up. We'll also, I think we can get the link in the chat as well. So
make sure to take a screenshot if you want. Take a screenshot of your win so you can send that on.
Absolutely. Okay, so homework. So like we said, we have homework every week for our workshops. This is how you earn your badge, and if you get all 3 badges from our series, you will get a gold badge and eligibility to win the $500 Amazon gift card that we mentioned. But for the homework for this one, it's very simple. It's basically what we went through today in the workshop. We deployed our app to production to our Netlify site. But we also want you to import a movie of your choice into the DB with GraphQL. So if you reference step 7 in part 1, that's where we were importing some of the movies. You can kind of go through the same process to import your own movie. Now, For something like the thumbnail where we are linking to, I think, Imager videos, feel free to just reuse one of those. It doesn't have to be the actual trailer from the movie that you're adding. We don't expect you to upload your own trailer to Imager or anything like that. You can just reuse one of those. But for
and honestly, if it, funny enough, from a grading perspective, it's actually easier if you have like wonky data in there, because we'll know it's yours, right?
Yeah.
So if you have like the movie from the thumbnail from Prometheus, but the movie name is coffee mug or whatever, then we'll know it's clearly one of the ones that you did. So yeah, don't even worry about that. It doesn't have to all match up or anything. It's really more to kind of illustrate to us that you're understanding how to mutate and how that works and such. So put in whatever you want there, really.
Yep. And then we have an optional part of the homework. This is not going to be for the graded for the badge or anything, but we really recommend watching that Anya video, and that's linked in the repo.
Yeah.
At the bottom there. And then yes, so as we said, our GitHub repo is always available, even outside of our workshop times. And you can go through that and reference that for your homework, and also for the links to the video. Excuse me, sorry. All right, so for submitting homework, so we have a little process. If you go to the Issues tab of our repo, and you click on Issues, you can also select the new issue, and we have a template that we use for homework. So you can click the Get Started button on the right for the homework assignment template, and fill in the information there. So what you're going to do is you're going to collect some screenshots from your homework, from your deployed app, and submit them to that issue. Make sure you enter your name and your email, because we use that to issue the badge. So if you want your badge, make sure you enter your name and email. For the screenshots, one thing that I want to just mention is the only screenshots that we really need are your final app, kind of with your URL, your Netlify URL displayed, and also make sure that you include a screenshot of the custom movie that you've entered. If you want to submit screenshots of your GraphQL playground and how the code that you use to enter it, that's fine. Just keep in mind that the GraphQL playground has your token, your Astra token exposed.
Don't paste your token in. Yeah.
Yes. Don't take a screenshot of your token and paste that in, because these issues are publicly available and anyone can see them. And if you do happen to, we're going to delete the screenshots and let you know to delete your token. It's kind of a hassle. So just make sure you don't take a screenshot of your token. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
All right.
One other thing about the homework, by the way, there it is. There's a homework section in the repo. You can see that here, right? Notice the last step, submit your homework here. That link will essentially shortcut what Ryan was talking about with creating the issue. If you just click this link, notice, by the way, we're back at DataStax Devs. You wanna submit this to our repo. It'll fill out the template for you. You just fill the stuff out and put your screenshot in, and you're done. Right, hit submit. So you can just use the link there as well.
Yep, and those angled brackets, make sure you remove those. That's just...
Oh yeah, these are just placeholders. Yeah, all this. Yeah, make sure if you put a name in here, you're replacing those completely. You don't want the little angled stuff in there.
All right,
exactly.
All right, so we will be grading those homeworks over the course of the next week. We do it all manually by hand, so it takes a little bit. So just be patient a little bit with us as we go through what is probably going to be hundreds of submissions. So just to let you know. So some resources that we have academy.datastax.com, which is a place that you can go to learn more about what we do here at DataStax. We work a lot with Cassandra, so it's going to be mainly Cassandra-based courses. We also have datastax.com/dev, which is a place, another place that you can find some courses and further learning, also based on Cassandra. We also have the community.datastax.com, which is kind of a Stack Overflow type place to ask questions about Cassandra, about DataStax, and the community will answer those questions. Really cool resource there. And of course, our YouTube channel, which you are on right now, watching this stream. We have workshops every single week, sometimes multiple different workshops a week. And we have a very large backlog because we record every session and we keep them around. So take a look at our YouTube channel, subscribe if you want to learn, if you want to be notified of when we go live. and check out our past workshops. And hopefully you guys can learn a lot more and enjoy those. All right, so certification. So we are going to be giving out vouchers for completing these 3 sessions. If you're just joining us for this last session, that is totally fine. And Casey, yes, this is the last class of the 3-week set. What will come next? Well, we'll give you a link on what to see is coming next. I think next week we're doing Introduction to NoSQL, just to answer that question.
Yes, I believe next week is Intro to NoSQL. Yeah.
So we're giving away vouchers for our certifications, which is a Cassandra certification. We will get the link to that form in the chat here in just a second. I don't know if I personally do not have that link. I wonder if Cedric or Kirsten have it. But the voucher registration will be open for just a few minutes during the end here of the workshop. But these vouchers are good for 2 attempts, which are usually $145 each. And they're good for any of these 3 courses. We have the developer certification, the administrator certification, or the Cassandra certification, which is the cloud-based, Kubernetes-based Cassandra certification. This is a really good way to, amp up your resume and kind of add more skills to your capabilities. And we actually have on DataStax Academy, I think the next slide has our courses that we provide on I guess we placed that slide. Anyway, we have those three paths, basically, the administrator, developer, and Cassandra paths. And you can go to datastax.com or academy.datastax.com, and all the courses required to learn enough to go through these certifications is available there. So if you want to go to that link that we have on the screen, dtsx.io/workshop voucher, you can also scan that QR code. You'll be able to claim these vouchers as well. Now, one thing that I do want to show, because we get the question every single time, is what will be required for getting these vouchers is your cluster ID or your site ID, I think it will ask for. I'm going to just share my screen quick. So what it's asking for is if you go to your Astra account, right? You created your Netflix Workshop DB, right? Right here, this cluster ID, this is what it's going to be asking for, right? So this is when it asks for that cluster ID, this is the thing that you can copy. You can use this little widget to copy it, and that's what it's going to be asking for. So it's just in your dashboard of your database that you've created in Astra. All right, yes, we've got the link there in the chat. All right. All right, so we have our little contest or lottery. We have 3 Amazon gift cards. We mentioned this at the beginning. If you have completed all the homework for all 3 sessions that we have in our summer series, right? So this one, last week's was TikToks, 2 weeks ago was the To-Do app. If you complete all the homework and you get all the badges and you get your golden badge, you can enter into the lottery for one of the Amazon gift cards. So we're giving away 3 $500 Amazon gift cards. And all you have to do is do the homeworks for each session and then go to this site. I have to turn off David's camera. dtsx.io/summer series game, which we just linked in the chat. And there's a form that you fill out, and you can get several entries into the contest. And we all entries need to be submitted by August 1st, and we're going to be announcing the winners live on August 18th. All right. And with that, someone asked about upcoming workshops. datastax.com/workshops. This is where we have all of the upcoming workshops listed. You can also register for them, register to the events there. I think next week is Introduction to NoSQL, and we might have a couple other ones listed as well. So that's where you can find out. Also, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can be notified when we go live as well. All right. One last plug for our Discord community. If you have further questions, we're going to stay on for a while, another 45 minutes after this, to answer any questions right away. But if you want to ask questions like in the coming days or weeks, or have any questions about homework or something, Discord is a place to go. We have 14,000 people there now, and it's really where we can answer questions kind of further into the future. So recommend in joining that. And with that, thank you so much for joining us this week. We hope that you learned a lot. I know it's a lot to digest, and it can be kind of a wave of information that's hard to digest. But session is recorded, and you can always rewatch it later. But we hope you learned something and had a really good time. I certainly had a good time.
Sure.
Yeah. So we will be back in just a couple minutes. Going to take a short break.
Yeah, we're gonna take like a 5-minute break, right? And then
Yep.
so the session at this point is officially done. We're gonna take a 5-minute break, and for those of you, if you want to stick with us for a little bit, we'll help answer some questions, help you get through the rest of your homework. Get a little bit more into the code or something like that. And we'll play around for about 45 minutes.
Yep. All right. So we will see you in just a few minutes. All right, we're back. Welcome back, everyone. Looks like we have a few people who stuck around, which is awesome. So this is going to be a very free form session. Ask your questions. If you have any like clarifications that you want, we can share screens and show some stuff if you need some.
Yeah, I've got one right off the bat for Diogo over in Discord, saying, "Hey, I can't find my cluster ID. Can someone help me?" And I don't know whose screen you're on at the moment, Ryan, but it doesn't matter either way. One of us can show Diogo how to get the cluster ID.
Yeah. So hold on. Let's see if I do this one. So yes, the cluster ID is in your Astra dashboard, right? You have your Netflix workshop. If you click on that, you'll have this window open, and this is your cluster ID right here.
Yeah, there should be a little copy widget like Ryan is showing right next to it, where you can just copy it, and that'll be good for your form. I assume you're looking for that for your form. Okay,
Oh, and
let's see.
Shreyash is asking about the site ID after Netlify link. What do you write there? So it should prompt you. So let's see if I can find where I have that. Dun, dun, dun. Hold on. So it should prompt you, and it should ask you a question. It should, how do you want to link this folder to a site? And the default option will be use current Git remote origin, and that one should be sufficient, because that'll just connect to the whatever Netlify site uses this GitHub repo. That's basically what it's saying, is use whatever Netlify site is using this repo, and it will connect it. If it's not popping up this question, try refreshing your Gitpod. It might be hung up on something. All right.
I see one in particular. I'm actually gonna. That I think. Let's see its title. Let's try that. Yeah, no, I've got that wrong.
Mr. Roma Forever asks, does using Jamstack and serverless functions eliminate the need for a backend altogether?
That is an interesting question.
That is an interesting question.
That is,
and then
yeah.
Technically, to answer it fully, is there is still a backend. It's just being provided for us, right? Netlify, in this case, is providing that backend infrastructure for us, and then dynamically providing endpoints to the serverless functions that we're giving. So it's not eliminating the need for a backend. It just eliminates our need to do it ourselves, if that makes sense. And I'll say, and I don't necessarily have an example at the top of mind, but there are certainly cases where you'll want to do your own backend, right? There are certain apps that you're just not going to have enough flexibility using serverless functions necessarily at this point. Maybe in the future, hopefully, as someone who hates doing backend stuff. But for a lot of apps, you can use serverless functions, and it's a really good way to get a head start and not have to worry about backend stuff. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, and I think if you're coming from like traditional, doing things with traditional backend, right? Funny enough, we've had these conversations within our own team, because a lot of the times in your traditional backend, as part of that backend code and those APIs and those interfaces, you're going to be, you're usually going to have some kind of authorization layer in there. You're going to probably have some code that's wrapped around that doesn't just let people execute, say, any commands or whatever. Those types of things still hold true. The difference, though, is that when you're doing things with serverless functions for Jamstack, you can just write those functions right there in the JavaScript, right in the front end code. So it kind of blurs the lines a little bit. So I can understand some people who are, say, traditionally back-end developers, which is what I've done. That's been most of the time I've spent coding was back-end. Might make you a little uncomfortable because all of a sudden it's removing, right, some of the control that we've had to control those types of things. So whether or not you want to use it for backend, I think it really depends on you, your application, your deployment, and the types of things that you want to do. Can you do it? Yes. I mean, you can totally put the same types of things in the serverless functions, that you would in the backend. The big difference, though, being is that serverless functions by design should be extremely lightweight, right? Because a serverless function, other than just being this like amorphous backend thing that's out there, serverless function needs to be able to elastically scale up and down very quickly. So if you happen to have a case where you have a ton of requests that are coming into a particular function, it needs to be able to scale up. And not only that, they're stateless. I mean, Netlify will actually, as you spin up, like when you push a Jamstack app to something like Netlify and you've defined serverless functions, Netlify actually does have some level of caching in there, right? But you should pretty much code it in such a way where you want to ensure, since they're stateless, that if that serverless function just got spun up 1,000 times, then it's not sitting there waiting for 30 seconds for every single one of those, right? It needs to be very, very immediate. So they do need to be lightweight. You don't want to put too much of the business logic back there. And again, it depends if you're used to doing things in microservices or monolithic apps, how you go about it. But you totally can. And that's actually one of the really cool things about serverless functions. And if you take a look, at the both the Netflix code and the TikTok, actually all of the apps we've been doing in this series, they all have serverless functions, and you can get some examples there. I don't know if Ryan, if you've got yours up or.
I can switch over to you.
Yeah, if you want. Yeah. Matter of fact, where is my Netlify? Let's take a look at this. Yes, cool. I've got it up. Yeah. So, by the way, who asked that question?
That was Mr. Roma Forever.
I got
YouTube.
it. I'm Mr. Roma Forever. I see. Yeah. Even for real production. Yeah. So check this out. So if you go to the code, and we didn't really talk about this here, but now we can. So let me blow these up a little bit. If you take a look in here, now when using Netlify, there's something called the Netlify TOML. So in the Netlify TOML, you just give it some configuration. One of those is, where are my serverless functions? In this case, we're saying I want my serverless functions in the functions directory. So in my functions directory here, notice I have these two functions, get genres and get movies. So these are my functions right now. So by defining, by literally putting my JS files in the functions directory, how I define it in the Netlify TOML, and then using this exports.handler like this, the way you see this set up, this now will tell Netlify, gives it all the information it needs to say, hey, this is a serverless function. So this code is going to be executed every time this thing loads. If you take a look at Netlify, notice that when we deployed it, we have both get genres and get movies. These are now exposed as serverless endpoints, right? And what's really cool, going back to the question about production and all that kind of deal, is, Netlify not only will push all of your static content to a global CDN on its edge network and everything. The benefit there being is, instead of being on a single web server, right, it'll actually distribute out all the code and everything like that around the world. So you can have that code as close to users who are accessing it as possible. But at the same time, it exposes the functions that you've defined as these serverless functions that are their own endpoints. This is actually how you make a static site dynamic, right? Use things like React and such in the static code, but instead of generating all of your HTML through some backend code and pushing that down to the front end, your front end is just static, but then it makes calls back to these functions. These can scale completely independently, right? So let's say, for whatever reason, the app Get Movies was just getting hit like, a ton compared to Get Genres. Get Movies would scale on its own independently as needed, and then would come back down, once that need kind of went away. So it's actually really awesome. So you can totally use this for production deployment, and that's what this is intended for. That's exactly what Netlify is about. And that's why when we kind of talk about, we're saying, okay, we're going to deploy this to production. I realize we're glossing over a lot, but this is what we're getting at, right? That you can take a JavaScript Jamstack app and you can actually use a service like Netlify. There are others like it. And you can actually push it this way for production usage in a production app. I hope that long-winded explanation kind of gave more information there, or useful information.
And Mr. Roma Forever also asked, what are other platforms other than Netlify that could be used as a CDN? There are several different CDNs. I don't know offhand if they all do the exact same thing as far as like providing serverless functions and stuff. I know Heroku is a pretty popular hosting platform. I don't know if it allows for serverless functions necessarily. Netlify is kind of our favorite. That's what we use. It works really well.
Yeah, you know, a really good place to go, by the way, for that, I want to say is jamstack.org. Yeah, jamstack.org.
Jamstack.org.
This is a really great place to go. You'll notice that there are a bunch. So here, I'll drop that for you. Jamstack.org. Yeah, I would take a look here, and this will explain the whole thing about Jamstack and what the app is using. But it's definitely kind of a newer stack. And it really takes advantage of a lot of the serverless, the serverless wave, if you will. As a matter of fact, Astra, when you created your Astra DB today, that is also serverless, right? So again, serverless meaning it's elastic and it's dynamically elastic, so it can scale up and down as needed depending on load. So both between the way you deploy the app here using a Jamstack and then having the backing database be Astra, which is also serverless and elastic, from a production standpoint, it essentially gives you the ability that if your app were to go viral or scale up, then it can scale up and scale down with you.
Yeah. And Treyash asks, can I build mobile apps using Netlify? Yes. We actually have something that we're working on.
We might have something in the works.
Might have something in the works that deals with that. Yeah. So stay tuned. There's another question. Can we actually add some videos which would open after using the play button? If we can, how? So you certainly can. And I would challenge you to figure out how. That'll get into like creating a new page, some more React components. If you need a primer,
some PRs. Yeah, if you wanna go for that experiment, by all means, PR it back in. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, it is certainly possible to store actual video files in AstraDB. That's going to use up a lot more data. Right now, we just link to external sources. But if you want to play around with it, again, keep in mind that it's going to use more data. Keep an eye on that $25 credit. Just to make sure that it doesn't go crazy. But it is certainly possible. And I would challenge you to figure it out. If you want to get a primer on React, because you'll need to do some React stuff to get some of that working. We have the React Basics course that we have. And there's plenty of more advanced resources out there as well.
I see a set of questions coming from where is it? Vimal and Shivendra, and I'm trying to find the questions from Vimal. I know Vimal, you need help. I don't know with what yet. I just see terminal. So if one of you two can give me a little bit more insight, we can try to get you some help. Only ones, can you please make a quick video of making the Netflix clone? Well, if you go down to the bottom of the repo, and I'll drop the link for you, there's this Anya's Netflix video. I believe that's what you're looking for.
Yep. It's 2 hours long, so it's not a quick one. But...
yeah, it's exactly. It's if you think about it, building any app. Even what we did here today, we didn't technically build like the components and the UI and stuff like that, the actual app, but just even going through the deployment process and building it take you 2 hours easy. But yeah, take a look at that video. That you do it. By the way, Nupur, in Discord, I think the problem in your GraphQL, looking at it here, is that your query is you want to. Okay, yeah. Your query, you want to get movies by genre, but you're referencing a reference list, right? So if you're trying to get movies by genre, reference list was actually the name of the table that we used for the genres. Let's see. Is there a way to edit in Netflix clone? We did. Yeah. If you're asking how do you insert a video, right? How do you insert your own custom video? Here's the trick, really. If you go to if you go to the section, step 7, where you're inserting the values in movie table, you can literally take one of these mutations, modify it, right? Just modify it, and then apply the same steps you did with the GraphQL library, or the sandbox, the playground is what I mean to say. And that's it. So you can just, matter of fact, easy for us, for the titles, especially if you change the title and you make it something very obvious, right? And stuff, you could even create the same thing. The important thing here is why we ask you to do that is it's one thing to deploy the app. It's another thing to be able to at least basically understand the concept of how do I go and mutate? How do I change some data in the system, right? Because that's exactly what you would use in the application to then affect change. So that's kind of what we wanted to leave you with. So yeah, you can literally just copy one of these, change the values. You could even leave the thumbnail if you want, or go find a different one. And then when you submit the homework, just make sure that you've got that in your screenshot so we can see it. Okay. See, I think I see more from Vimal here and Shivendra. Do you have anything while I'm reading there, Ryan?
No, not anything that you haven't addressed already, I think. And ask about the homework and what screenshots to get. The only screenshots that we really need are of the website, the final website, and the new movie inserted. Make sure you include your the URL to your Netlify site so that we can make sure it's unique, and we can go there and check it out. And I'm reading the error that Shivendra is facing. And are you working locally or through Gitpod? Would be my first question. Locally, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so our ability to troubleshoot is a little bit limited because you are working locally. I'm trying to think of why it would error out though, because it shouldn't. I mean, it should.
It works locally just fine.
Are you running Netlify Dev or are you running npm start? That's another thing, because
that's a good question.
You need to run Netlify Dev for it to have the environment for it to even know what to do with some of the stuff that we're giving it. So you'll need to install npm install Netlify CLI, and then run Netlify Dev would be the steps to normally take. So if you have done that, yeah, okay. So npm start will that's the issue. You need to install Netlify CLI, Netlify-CLI, and what that does is it basically allows you to run the Netlify environment on your local machine, because the Netlify environment will provide the endpoints, the dynamic endpoints for those serverless functions, all those kinds of things. And then once you install that Netlify CLI, you'll be able to run Netlify Dev, which is just one of the scripts for Netlify CLI.
Yeah, definitely try Netlify Dev. And just to add on to what Ryan was saying, so something really cool that Netlify does for you and why you need to use Netlify Dev, right? Remember we were talking about these endpoints earlier before, our serverless functions. What's neat about this is, let me see if I can't find an example for you in the code. I know for a fact exactly where it is in the TikTok one. Maybe I'll bring up the TikTok one. I'll do that because I know right where that one is.
App.js, are you looking for the endpoint?
No, I'm looking for, maybe it is app.js. I'm looking for where, and you might know this one better, Ryan, in the Netflix app. I'm looking for where the .netlify endpoint is called.
Yep. App.js.
Is it? It is here now. Oh, here it is. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, that's where it is in this one. So here's what's really really neat. I think it's really neat anyway. Notice the endpoint here. Notice that it doesn't matter if I'm local or if I've deployed up on Netlify or anything like that. What's going to happen is Netlify makes the access to my serverless functions seamless, regardless of the environment I'm in. So even when I'm deployed locally, when I use Netlify Dev, I can access my serverless functions the same way I would as if they were actually deployed in production. So from a development, from my standpoint, it makes my process the same, right? It makes my access the same. So I find that to be like a really cool piece of functionality because I don't have to remember or do anything special or have some special code that says, oh, okay, well, if I'm local, do this. If I'm in prod, do this. So that's really neat. That's part of why we use that Netlify Dev. Let's see. We'll see if that works.
Yep.
This actually, by the way, for the folks that are asking about native mobile app development, this is something that's coming up that's kind of interesting because we've been noticing that the different environments like Android compared to iOS kind of use networking a little bit differently. And matter of fact, Brian, that's exactly what we were working on the other day, trying to figure that one out. So
it's kind of a pain, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Cluster ID.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go for it, Ryan. No, go on.
Anushka asked for the cluster ID and where to find it again. So your Astra account, you go to your Astra account, you click on, it's gonna totally reset on me, isn't it? Okay.
Oh, I've actually got mine up too if you want.
And you'll have if you just your main page for your Astra account, you have your Netflix Workshop DB. It's this key right here. It's also, I guess in this column, it's called database ID. That should be exactly the same as the cluster ID, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just this guy right here.
Actually, I'm going to drop a feedback for that. I don't know why they're different names.
Yeah, that is a little confusing. I think someone else asked before. I vaguely remember someone asked if cluster ID and database ID were the same. They are the same.
Okay.
Is there a way to edit in Playground of Netflix clone we done today, like changing movie name info for homework? So yeah, you can. Was this asked already? Yeah, I think so. So in your Playground, so when you add your own custom movie, you're going to use the Playground like we did to add the movies in the first place. So, we mentioned step 7 of part 1 is what? Gosh, I hate the scroll on Max. Step 7, insert values. So you can just use one of these as a basis for how you enter stuff in. So if I'm in, and remember you want to be in your GraphQL tab, and this is how you're going to insert movies, and you'll use the Playground just like we did before. Just change these stuff.
Are you referring to Padman's question?
Yep.
Padmanaban? Okay, cool.
So yes, use Playground. That's not only the easiest way, but also
definitely a good way to do it.
You can use the GraphQL.
Shiva in Discord is asking how to get the golden badge. Once you complete all 3 badges from the 3-week series for the To-Do app, TikTok, and Netflix, then we will be issuing those golden badges, right? So you just need to complete all 3 badges, and then we will be issuing those. There's nothing more you need to do. Ryan, if you wouldn't mind popping back over to my screen, I see somebody is stuck with the no referrer found, so I can show that one.
Yep.
Cool. All right, so Shiva, I see what's going on. Chances are that the Gitpod button only works in Chrome or Firefox. And you'll notice in the link, if I just copy the link address, there it is. So if I try to do this, but I'm in Brave, right? Brave, this from referrer won't work. So what's going to happen is when I try to go here, it's going to say, hey, no referrer found. Here's what you do, right? So if I go to open this up, you'll notice that it has this hash and then an address. This address is actually the referrer. It's trying to get the link to the repo that you're in, right? So what you can do there is you grab your repo link, and from the hash on, just pop that in there manually like that. and that's it. That'll be enough to do it, right? So even if you're not using one of the supported browsers, again, just grab your repo link, paste that in there after that github.io/hash and your link. That should do it. Oh, nice, Anushka. Cool. Thanks for saying so. Yeah, thank you, Stefano. Stefano, yeah, did that as well. All right, how are we doing on questions? I feel like we've gotten questions answered up.
Pranjul, the golden badge will be automatically provided if you have all three other badges. So yeah, you don't have to apply anywhere. Right. I gotcha.
And Diego, yeah, I actually took that as a thing of feedback because there is kind of a thing where at one point it stays a database ID and then you see cluster ID. Some screens have changed, so we'll get that fixed up. Thank you for making the point.
All right. Yeah, if there are any other questions, let us know.
Yeah, I do see Bhuvan in Discord. Will you teach this also, or it's the end here? So, oh, that's right. Yeah, Bhuvan. Yeah, it's the end here, right? So, if you're looking to extend out the capability of the Netflix clone, you want to do more, you want to use this for a basis for your own project, go for it, right? Matter of fact, if you feel so inclined to, if you want to extend the capability, by all means, do a PR. PR back the repo. We'd be happy to take your PR. So it is one of those things where, as we're just building it up, and you'll see, especially if you go through the Anya video, that's down in the repo, even getting to the point where the app has the basic functionality that it does now with a lot of the mocks and stuff, it's a good amount of work. So there's definitely significantly more that can be done. That's up to you. But you're right, it is, and we're at the end here with what that app does.
Anne asks, how do you save new changes to Netlify website? So the Netlify site is connected to your GitHub repo. So anytime you make changes to your GitHub repo and commit those changes, so like when we're working in Gitpod, for example, we're working in this like local virtual environment that Gitpod creates. We would have to commit all those changes to our GitHub repo, which there's commands for. And then once it's committed to like the master branch of our repo, those changes will get migrated to Netlify automatically. And Netlify will detect those changes, rebuild the app, and redeploy.
Are you, whose screen are you on?
I'm on yours.
Okay. So, yeah, this is actually really, really cool. Let me do this real fast. Oop, I gotta relog in because I sat there and did nothing for a minute. This is another piece from the Netlify piece that I think is really, really neat. So once you've linked your workspace, once you've authenticated and linked your workspace like this, then as Ryan was saying, and I'll just make sure those are there. So when we do this step here, this Netlify env, import env, what are we doing? We're taking the values from our .env file and we're injecting them into our Netlify site environment. This is actually a really important step. And why it's important is because you never ever want to take these kind of values and store them out in the open. You don't ever want to check these into your GitHub repo or anything, because this is how people are going to authenticate against your database, and they could do really bad things, right? So you want those, but you need to get them up to the serverless functions. You need to get them so they can be used. So what's really cool about this little command right here is in your site, you have environment. We didn't put these in here. This command injected them in there, but these are protected and safe. These aren't accessible publicly. So then this gives the ability now for our app up in production to use them, but there's more to it, right? So that's one part of it. The other part is this. When you do this build, now this is one way to do it, by the way. There's actually we have a whole nother workshop that goes really into a lot more detail where If you want to use like a CI/CD pipeline with like GitHub Actions, you want to go through your testing harness and everything like you should before pushing to prod, then what you could do is, as Ryan said, when you commit your changes and then you like PR them up to your repository, then Netlify will actually do, and I'll show this here real quick. I'll just do it without the prod. Let me build it though, yeah, just because I'll do it that way so you can kind of see. So you could do it one of two ways. You can either have Netlify build stuff, or you can do it locally and then push it. It's either. So when we first pushed it, if you remember, when it first copied the repo and Ryan had clicked on the deploy and you get those logs that come out, this stuff from here, that was actually Netlify went and built the whole thing, right? This time what we're doing is we're saying, hey, I'm going to build this locally, but then I'm going to deploy it. Now we cheated for time action. We use this -- prod. But if you don't do that and you say Netlify deploy, what it's going to do, this is actually, I just love this functionality. Let's see. Check this out. It does a deploy preview, right? So it doesn't just push it to production. I could do this safely, and if I really wanted to really get the end-to-end thing going, I would use GitHub with GitHub Actions. And anytime you make any kind of commit, as Ryan was saying, back to master, which your main is, then it will automatically do a deploy preview of your PR and go through the whole test harness. It's really freaking awesome. Then once you're all green and you see you passed all your tests and you're all good, then you can promote it. What we did here by using -- prod is we said, I don't care, just take my code that I built here and put it into production. Right now, this is literally going to take what I built and it's going to jam it right up into production. Right there, boom. So that's why it doesn't have all of this build. It just takes it and puts it live, right? Where the safer way is probably to do a deploy preview and everything. But again, I pre-built this. If you remember when we did the first one, we didn't pre-build it, and because it built it for you. So there's a bunch of different options here. It depends on what you want to do, really. But it's actually, Netlify is awesome. Honestly, I love using it. It's really neat. And if you do it right, then you can without even having to set up any of your own Jenkins, your own sites or anything, you can actually have a fully testable end-to-end pipeline all through mostly free services. It's actually really great.
All right.
Miss anything there, Ryan?
Nope. Just invited people to join the Discord for to ask further questions because we're going to wrap up here in just a bit. So Discord is definitely where you can ask questions and we'll be able to help you further. And you can upload screenshots and all that kind of stuff. Like it's a little bit easier to help in that environment. It's like Stefano is in Discord answering questions. I don't see any more questions in YouTube chat at the moment.
Okay.
All right. Well, again, thank you everyone for joining us for this workshop. We hope you enjoyed our summer series, and if you haven't watched the other sessions of the series, we really encourage you to go do that and get those homeworks done and apply for that raffle for the Amazon gift card. It'll be really cool.
That's right. So, we'll give you free stuff.
Yep. All right. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week for our next session. All right. See you.
All right. See you, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And as always, don't forget to click that subscribe button and ring that bell to get notifications for all of our future upcoming workshops.
Imagine a being gifted with powers from the goddess of Cassandra, who grew those powers until she could multiply at will, move with limitless speed, and unmask hidden knowledge. With those powers, she was able to fully understand the connectedness of the world. What she saw was a world in need of understanding. From that day forward, she sought to bestow her powers on all who came into contact with her, empowering them to achieve wondrous feats.